Chapter 1075. Of course, Ning Fan would not explain to the cultivators in this place about the strange phenomenon of his divine spirit-crippled body. To him, it was not a big deal to send a connate magic treasure flying with a single punch. After all, Meng Baixiong, who was using a connate magic treasure, was not in his peak condition. His injuries were severe and his life was in danger. It was difficult for him to use even a 10th or 20% of his dermic powers. Under all kinds of weakening conditions, the immortal cleansing cloak's power that could be unleashed was very limited. Of course, if Meng Baixiong uses this treasure with his full cultivation base, Ning Fan would not dare to be careless and use his physical body to fight against an innate magic treasure. After breaking the attack of the immortal washing totem with a single punch, Ning Fan did not want to waste time talking nonsense with the cultivators here. He directly flipped his hand and tossed out a ray of 7-colored light towards Meng Baixiong. The 7-colored light came too quickly, so few people could see what it was. Meng Baixiong felt a strong sense of danger from that 7-colored light. His expression turned gloomy. He no longer had the time to be shocked by Ning Fan's terrifying physical body. With a series of hand seals, he controlled the immortal washing cloak to attack again, colliding with that 7-colored light. With this clash, even the 7-colored radiance's ferocious attack couldn't help but slow down slightly. It revealed its true form, which was the wonderful 7 treasures tree. The immortal washing battleship was at a disadvantage. Although it was a connate magic treasure, its power was inferior to the non-connate tree of 7 wonders. Because its owner was seriously injured, its power was less than 10%, and it was directly blown away by the tree of 7 wonders. It wasn't to the extent of being damaged in one hit, but the brilliance of the magic treasure was somewhat flickering. The aftershock of the attack of the 7 wonders tree even forced Meng Baixiong to retreat ceaselessly, and he shattered piece after piece of limestone while swaying and almost fell to the ground. Even though he wasn't injured, he was in a slightly sorry state. This is the legendary tree of 7 wonders. To actually have such power, could it be that this tree has already been nurtured to a certain height? Meng Baixiong's face was as gloomy as still water. He suppressed the shock in his heart and made another hand seal with his 10 fingers, forcibly stabilizing the flickering brilliance of the immortal washing cloak. For the 3rd time, the immortal washing cloak rushed forward. Ning Fan did not hesitate either. He caught the wonderful tree of 7 treasures in his hand and continuously attacked Meng Baixiong. In just tens of breaths, the two of them had exchanged more than 1,000 attacks. Countless afterimages were flying about. The two of them fought higher and higher. In the end, they fought from the ground to the sky. The terrifying fluctuations of the battle shook the hearts of every single cultivator here, and no one dared to arbitrarily interfere in such a battle for fear of being affected by the fluctuations of the battle. The tree of 7 wonders created cracks in the void that could not be healed. The immortal washing battle cloak smashed into the ground, creating numerous rifts and valleys. Countless great Tao laws were thrown into chaos as the two of them clashed again and again, causing them to collapse. Whether it was the Meng clan's cultivators or the guests incited by Meng Baixiong, at this moment, all of them stayed on the ground and quickly retreated into the distance. They did not dare to soar into the sky. They did not dare to move forward. They did not dare to get involved in the battle between Ning Fan and Meng Baixiong. Like mortals worshipping a miracle, they looked up at the battle between the two. After tens of breaths, Ning Fan steadily gained the upper hand after more than 1,000 attacks. His white robes fluttered in the wind, but not a single strand of cloth was torn. Not even a speck of dust touched his body. Meng Baixiong was in a very sorry state. He was constantly spurting blood from the tree of 7 wonders. His wedding robes were only left with a few tattered pieces of cloth, covering the important parts of his body. With the current power that the immortal washing cloak could display, it was impossible for him to negate all of the attacks from the treasure tree. His injuries that were already so severe that he could not suppress were getting worse bit by bit. Even though Meng Baixiong had the cultivation base of an immortal emperor, he naturally could not be compared to He Zhu, who was in his peak condition in his weakened state. Originally, he could only display the magic power of a quasi-emperor in his severely injured state. Now, his chi was actually equivalent to that of an ordinary fifth tribulation immortal king. Moreover, his chi was also showing signs of weakening as his injuries worsened. Facing Ning Fan's airtight attacks, Meng Baixiong only felt his scalp tingling. If he continued to fight Ning Fan in a battle of attrition, the injuries in his body would become more and more serious. The cultivation base that he could display would also become lower and lower. In the end, he would certainly be easily killed by Ning Fan because of his injuries. Even though he did not want to believe Ning Fan's identity, in fact, Meng Baixiong was very sure that the ghost-faced cultivator who kept attacking him with the treasure tree was Ning Fan. Sensing the aura at such a close distance could not lie. Because of this, his heart was also stirred up by a storm. 2 months ago, he tried to kill Ning Fan in the Fire Spirit Tower. If it wasn't for Ning Fan using the golden palm token of the Flame Ancestor to plot against him, he would definitely have the ability to kill Ning Fan like pinching an ant. However, in just 2 short months, the little external cultivator who could not withstand a single blow actually had an unimaginable improvement in his strength. Even an immortal emperor like him felt that he was no match for Ning Fan. To cultivators, 2 months was just a short period of time. How could there be such a huge increase in strength? Unbelievable! Among all the cultivators that I have met in my life, none of them could improve their strength from an ordinary immortal venerable to the level where they could kill an immortal emperor in just 2 short months. Did this young man have a fortuitous encounter in these 2 months which caused his cultivation base to improve greatly? Or did he already have such strength but he did not release his full strength in the Fire Spirit Tower because of some reasons? My only grandson was killed by this young man. Henceforth, the last descendant of my bloodline in this world has fallen. Under the golden palm token of this young man, I only have a few dozen years left to live. Today, I might even die directly. The matter of my death is irreversible, but this old man is unwilling. This old man refuses to accept this. Puff! Meng Baixiong, who was full of unwillingness, suddenly groaned and spurted out blood. The mental connection between his body and the immortal cleansing warp was actually severed. After Ning Fan continuously smashed the immortal cleansing warp for thousands of times, he finally destroyed the magical treasure light on the surface of the warp. Then, the great river of oblivion spread out and directly absorbed the immortal cleansing warp which had temporarily lost its magical treasure power into the bottom of the river. In a direct battle, he forcibly seized Meng Baixiong's famous magical treasure. How strong! How tyrannical! Not good. Old Ancestor's innate magical treasure was actually snatched away by this devil. What kind of great river is that? It actually gave people a strange feeling that it could transform heaven and earth and absorb everything. It's actually an ancient grand cultivator's divine ability. This devil has too many heaven-defying means. Even Ancestor Meng would find it difficult to compete with him. What should we do? We must escape. If we don't, I'm afraid we will be killed by this devil. Seeing that Meng Baixiong even lost his innate magical treasure, a large number of cultivators were extremely afraid of Ning Fan. They began to flee in all directions, fearing that they would be annihilated together with the Meng family, which was on the verge of destruction. Among the fleeing cultivators, there were guests who did not help either side before. There were also people who were incited by Meng Baixiong's words to help. There were even people of the Meng family who were utterly disappointed in the Meng family. With a thought in Ning Fan's mind, a black shadow suddenly flew out from his body and forcibly took over the operation of the heavenly Tao within 10,000 li of the Meng family. Then, it sealed the heavens and the earth, blocking everyone's escape route. The person who sealed the heavens and the earth was an ice-cold girl wearing a black dress with cat ears. She was the black devil who had already entered adulthood and possessed the physical body of a Tao soul. Humph! Did my master allow you to escape? Those who stay here and wait for orders will be spared from death. Those who run away will be killed without mercy. While speaking, an aura force comparable to that of a quasi-emperor spread out from the black devil's body. With a wave of her small hand, the lightning power of the heavenly tribulation was under her control. The rolling heavenly tribulation condensed in the vast sky. Its momentum covered the entire sky, causing the expressions of the cultivators to change. No one expected that Ning Fan did not come to destroy the Meng family alone. He actually brought along a little girl as a helper. She was not an ordinary little girl. She was actually a little girl with the cultivation base of a quasi-emperor. Moreover, she was a terrifying little girl who could deprive the heavenly Tao of a certain area of the extreme Dan sacred region. A quasi-emperor. Since when did our three flames have such a quasi-emperor? Could it be that this girl is a reclusive person from the sacred mountain? Why is this girl able to exercise the heavenly Tao on behalf of the heavens? This is not something that a cultivator can do. Since ancient times, there has never been a second-step cultivator who could seize the control of the heavenly Tao from the hands of the heavenly Tao of a medium-class world where the laws of the world are formed. Damn it! With this girl sealing the heavens and the earth, can't we escape? Countless fleeing cultivators were blocked by the power of the heavens and the earth. They could not leave the territory of the Meng family. After trying again and again to no avail, their eyes were filled with despair and they gave up on escaping. There were also a few cultivators who did not believe in evil. They tried to break through the Black Devil's seal by force. As a result, they were directly killed by the lightning power of the heavenly tribulation that the Black Devil attracted. Master, don't worry. The Black Devil will never let anyone escape. Master, you just need to focus on the battle with that Meng ancestor. The Black Devil acted like a loyal servant. He imprisoned everyone in this place and even cut off all information transmission with his divine ability, making it impossible for the Meng family to be informed of the situation to other forces. Ning Fan nodded with satisfaction. With an adult kitten as a helper, it was very convenient for him to kill and rob. None of the captives could escape or send any information to the outside world. They could only be trapped to death. You actually have such a strong helper. She can enforce justice on behalf of the heavens. Meng Baixiong sucked in a breath of cold air. He had also never heard of such an unimaginable thing. His fear towards Ning Fan increased again. He only had one innate magical treasure and it was taken away by Ning Fan. His combat power could be said to have been greatly reduced. With his magic power weakened, it was difficult for him to display much of the power of his divine ability. The possibility of injuring Ning Fan, who had a terrifying physical body, was close to zero. Meng Baixiong's eyes showed a hint of struggle. Then, it turned into determination. He clasped his palms together and a crack of the incense flame world appeared behind him. The incense flames that had been accumulated for millions of years surged out from the crack and turned into a white mist sword light. It slashed towards Ning Fan. The sword of incense flames. Meng Baixiong originally planned to use these incense flames when he prayed for children. However, it seemed like he would not have the chance to do so if he did not kill Ning Fan. Only this level of power, huh? It's too weak compared to Bai Lu's sword of incense flames. Ning Fan looked at Meng Baixiong's incense flame world with a calm expression, allowing the incense flame sword to take shape. The second time he faced the incense flame sword of a strong enemy, he did not activate the God-vanquishing shield. Instead, he directly used the wonderful tree of 7 treasures to destroy the incense flame sword that Meng Baixiong was so confident about. The whole process did not take much effort. In terms of the number of disciples, Meng Baixiong's disciples were several times more than Taoist Bai Lu's. However, the amount of incense flames left in his incense flame world was far less than Taoist Bai Lu's. Most of the incense flames were used up during his previous cultivation. The remaining incense flames were the accumulation of millions of years. Because of that, the power of the incense flame sword was far less than Taoist Bai Lu's 74 million years of accumulation. It could not give Ning Fan the slightest sense of danger. Even his incense flame sword was destroyed. Meng Baixiong's face showed a trace of depression. In the end, that depression turned into madness. Being so weak, he could no longer use many of his immortal emperor techniques to deal with Ning Fan. Even his primordial true body was severely injured due to the pursuit of the golden palm token of the flame ancestor. Facing the powerful Ning Fan, if Meng Baixiong did not fight back with all his might, he no longer had any power to resist. He only had one last trump card left. It might be able to injure Ning Fan, sacrificing his life to detonate his primordial spirit. The primordial spirit of an immortal emperor was known for being difficult to kill. However, Meng Baixiong's primordial spirit was already severely injured and weak. He was not confident that his primordial spirit could escape from Ning Fan's hands. Even if he managed to escape, he only had a few decades left to live. A few decades left to live. He only had a few decades left to live. He was a dignified immortal emperor who had been running amok all his life. However, because of a young man like Ning Fan, he ended up like this. How miserable! How humiliating! How could he not hate him? What difference does it make to me whether I live a few decades longer or a few decades less? I won't run anymore. I won't fight anymore. I admit that I have lost. Now that I am severely injured, I am not your opponent at all. Life and death are up to the heavens. I accept my fate. But do you think that you have already won? I don't want any descendants to inherit my bloodline. I don't care about the life and death of the Meng family anymore. You can't kill me. The only one who can kill me is me. Explode. Meng Baixiong's physical body directly exploded into a bloody mist. Then his golden primordial spirit flew out from the bloody mist. It kept expanding within the bloody mist. Violent energy began to gather within his primordial spirit. Everyone on the scene cried out in fear. No one had expected that Meng Baixiong would actually be forced to the point of self-detonating his primordial spirit. The energy contained in the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor was extremely terrifying. If it self-detonated, no living being below the immortal emperor realm would be able to survive within the range of the explosion. We will die. We will all die. If I had known that the Meng family would face such a great calamity, I would never have participated in Ancestor Meng's concubine ceremony. I don't want to die. I don't want to die yet. Old ancestor, stop. Quickly stop. Do you want to kill all of us, the descendants of the Meng family? Senior Meng, please stop. You can't. You can't. No. Don't. Countless terrified cries resounded across the sky. However, they could not stop Meng Baixiong's determination to self-detonate. Meng Baixiong's primordial spirit continued to expand. Death was constantly approaching. However, the small face of his primordial spirit revealed a sinister smile. He wanted to kill Ning Fan right here and now. Even if he did not die from the explosion, he would at least severely injure him. Even if this action would cause countless descendants of the Meng family and his friends to perish together with him, Meng Baixiong would not hesitate to do it. Unfortunately, even suicide was an extravagant hope for someone as weak as him. Ning Fan's face revealed a ruthless expression. He pointed his finger at Meng Baixiong across the sky. At the price of coughing up blood slightly, he froze Meng Baixiong in midair. The self-detonation wave was stopped. The expanding primordial spirit shrunk back to its normal size. Meng Baixiong struggled with all his might, but he could not move his primordial spirit at all. He could only watch as Ning Fan approached him step by step in the sky. With a grab of his hand, Ning Fan directly pulled him away and threw him into a silver cauldron. Refine. Ning Fan uttered a single word coldly. Countless rays of blood-red light suddenly burst out from the spirit-refining cauldron. Amidst the dense blood-red light, a huge blood ball rose from the cauldron and imprisoned Meng Baixiong's primordial spirit inside. The blood ball emitted a boundless suction force. In front of countless cultivators, it sucked away all the life force of the primordial spirit of the immortal emperor of a generation, turning it into more than 230 drops of myriad spirit blood in the cauldron. A towering aura of death spread out from the silver cauldron. A great emperor of a generation fell in Ning Fan's hands just like that. Dead silence. Above the ruins of the Meng family, countless cultivators trembled from head to toe when they saw this terrifying scene. They did not dare to speak. Who could have expected that this ghost-masked cultivator would actually be so powerful that the old ancestor of the Meng family could not even commit suicide? Who could have expected that this ghost-masked cultivator would actually refine the primordial spirit of the Meng family's ancestor into a pill in front of countless cultivators? Not only was his method ferocious, but it was also unfathomable. The cause of that day, the effect of that day. If your clan's devil's son didn't harm me, if your clan's immortal emperor didn't try to kill me, your Meng family wouldn't have such a calamity today. As for the cultivators present, those who have nothing to do with the Meng family, I can let you go. As for the cultivators of the Meng family, because none of you are Meng Baixiong's direct descendant, I can also give you two choices. Either you die or become my incense slaves. Fellow disciples of the Meng family, give me your answer. Ning Fan kept the silver cauldron and the storage pouch that Meng Baixiong left behind after his death. Then he stood in the sky and said to the cultivators below. He was a devil lord. However, he could spare the lives of those who had nothing to do with the Meng family. For example, he could spare the lives of those forces who did not help either side or those women who were abducted by Meng Baixiong. However, the cultivators of the Meng family would not have it easy. They could either die, or they could become his incense slaves forever and be imprisoned in the incense world. As soon as these words were spoken, the cultivators below were greatly surprised. Most of them were pleasantly surprised. Those who did not help either side of the Meng family were all deeply grateful to Ning Fan when they heard that Ning Fan did not kill them. As for the guests who stood on Meng Baixiong's side and the cultivators of the Meng family, when they heard this, they also had their own plans. One day later, another piece of news shocked the entire Three Flames family. After invading the corpse Bone Mountain Range, the ghost-faced cultivator who destroyed the He family went to the Stone Flame continent and annihilated the Meng family. He killed the immortal emperor of the Meng family, Meng Baixiong, and captured all the cultivators of the Meng family. The family's foundation was naturally emptied out as well. As soon as this news spread, countless experts naturally chased to the ruins of the Meng family. Among them, there was no lack of immortal emperors and even Stone Lord himself. Unfortunately, it was impossible for them to find Ning Fan. After destroying the Meng family, Ning Fan naturally left this place and looked for a place to absorb the benefits of destroying the Meng family. Ning Fan once again used a 10,000 years old tower to refine all of the Meng family's foundation and the 230 drops of 10,000 spirit blood that were refined from Meng Baixiong's primordial spirit. The cultivation bases of the ancient gods and ancient demons had risen to the peak of the thought fragmentation realm. The cultivation bases of the ancient devils had risen to the 12 nirvana heavenly devil realm. All three of his cultivation bases had improved by one whole realm within 10,000 years. To ordinary cultivators, it was definitely an unimaginable improvement. However, to Ning Fan, it was not a big deal. After all, he had forcefully devoured all of the foundation of the second immortal emperor's force. It would be strange if his cultivation base did not improve at all. As for the 230 drops of 10,000 spirit blood, they had also slightly improved the attributes of Ning Fan's divine spirit crippled body. Bone age, 140,000. 10,000 years old tower, 3 left. Plundering an immortal emperor's force is indeed the fastest way to improve my cultivation base. Unfortunately, an immortal emperor's force is not that easy to destroy. I succeeded in destroying the He family because the Three Flames continent was not on guard against me at that time. I succeeded in destroying the Meng family because Meng Baixiong, who was severely injured and on the verge of death, was too weak. He was too easy to kill. It was even easier than killing Bai Lu. If I go and destroy the other immortal emperor's forces in the Three Flames continent, the risk will be unimaginable. Besides, the Three Flame Lords seem to be looking for me now. The situation of the Three Flames continent is also unstable because of the war between the continents. I can't stay here for long. It's time for me to leave. Besides, my divine, demon and devil cultivation bases have all reached the peak of the true immortal realm and heavenly devil realm. Only by breaking through the bottleneck and stepping into the eternal ancient realm and atavism realm can I continue to improve. Before that, it's useless to consume ordinary pills, Tao fruits and spirit fruits. If it's the immeasurable pill, it might still be useful. Unfortunately, even an immortal emperor's foundation does not have many of such rare pills in stock. After the true immortal realm is the eternal ancient realm. After the heavenly devil realm is the atavism realm. Existences at the eternal ancient realm and atavism realm are already at the peak of the second step. This step is extremely difficult to take. Usually, only 1 out of 100 peak thought-severing realm cultivators can successfully break through. As for the rest, most of them will be trapped at this bottleneck for life. This shows how difficult it is to become an eternal immortal venerable. Sensing the peak of his divine, demon and devil cultivation base in his body, Ning Fan frowned slightly and opened an ancient scroll in his hand. This ancient scroll was something that Ning Fan bought from the ancient country's trading formation. It recorded the methods and experiences of ordinary peak thought-severing realm cultivators to break through the bottleneck of the eternal ancient realm. The biggest difference between an eternal ancient realm cultivator and an ordinary true immortal realm cultivator was the nature of their magic power. For first-step cultivators, their magic power was initially calculated in units of 60 years. After that, it would return to the primordial realm. This step was the biggest difference between void fragmentation realm cultivators and ordinary first-step cultivators. When second-step cultivators become immortals, their cultivation bases could no longer be calculated purely by quantity. This was the biggest difference between immortal realm cultivators and mortal realm cultivators. For eternal ancient realm cultivators, the nature of their magic power was different from that of true immortal realm and life immortal realm cultivators. If one wants to truly break through to the eternal ancient realm, one would need to cultivate to such a difference. The magic power of an eternal ancient realm cultivator is once again materialized from its immeasurable state. From the first step to the peak of the second step, a cultivator's magic power would go from nothing to something. Even though it still exists, it is already very different from before. The eternal ancient realm cultivators calculate the level of their magic power in units of tribulation. A peak thought-severing realm cultivator would need to accumulate at least 500 tribulations of magic power in order to break through to the immortal venerable realm. The first tribulation of the eternal ancient realm would require magic power of 1,000 tribulations. Second tribulation immortal venerable realm would require 2,000 tribulations. Third tribulation immortal king realm would require 3,000 tribulations. Every time a cultivator breaks through to the eternal ancient realm, they would need to accumulate 1,000 tribulations of magic power in order to break through the bottleneck. To break through to the sixth tribulation immortal emperor realm, they would need 6,000 tribulations of magic power. To break through to the ninth tribulation of the eternal ancient realm, they would need 9,000 tribulations of magic power. First step pre-saint realm, 10,000 tribulations. Second step pre-saint realm, 20,000 tribulations. Third step ancient realm great cultivator, 30,000 tribulations. Theoretically, a third step pre-saint realm great cultivator whose magic power had reached 30,000 tribulations could begin to become a true saint and advance to the third step. Of course, becoming a true saint with 30,000 tribulations was just the lowest record recorded by the heaven-reaching sect. There were very few who could truly become a true saint with just 30,000 tribulations of magic power. Besides, when one reaches the eternal ancient realm, magic power was no longer the standard to determine one's final combat power. Instead, magic treasures, secret techniques, eternal true body, trump cards and other decisive factors would be the key to victory or defeat in the eternal ancient realm. A peak thought-severing realm cultivator would need to accumulate 500 tribulations of magic power in order to break through to the eternal ancient immortal venerable realm. The most common way to increase one's cultivation base in the eternal ancient realm in the future is to consume a type of pill called the immeasurable pill. Of course, there are also other heavenly materials and earthly treasures that have the effect of transforming magic power. The real problem is that the immeasurable pills I have are far from enough to transform the magic power of the divine, demon and devil realms into tribulation realm. Thinking of this, Ning Fan could not help but slightly frown. Chapter 1076. After attaining the crippled divine spirit body, what Ning Fan obtained was actually not all benefits. While the qualities of his primordial spirit, sea of consciousness and physical body were greatly improved, it also brought him some helplessness. Ning Fan was a 3 apertures ancient god. Theoretically, he could obtain 8 times the medicinal effect of the pills he consumed. However, for some unknown reason, after attaining the crippled divine spirit body, the effects of a small number of pills were greatly reduced. Among 100 types of pills, there would basically be 1 or 2 types of pills whose effects would be greatly reduced. Under normal circumstances, a pill Ning Fan consumed was equivalent to 8 times the effect of an ordinary person. However, if he encountered those types of pills whose medicinal effect was reduced, he would usually need to consume several or even tens of pills to achieve the same effect as an ordinary person. The reason why the medicinal effect of those pills would be reduced seemed to be because some of the ingredients in those pills contained medicinal ingredients that were beneficial to the crippled divine spirit body. Golden Marrow Corydalus, Extreme Jade Immortal Ginseng, Silver Leaf Een Zoysha, 10-Leaf Purple Essence, 100 Tribulation Star Luo. Up until now, Ning Fan had discovered more than 10 types of medicinal ingredients. As long as the pills he consumed contained one of these medicinal ingredients, more than 90% of the medicinal effect would be directly absorbed by the crippled divine spirit body and be used to slowly evolve towards the postnatal divine spirit body that was still far away. The crippled divine spirit body was very capricious. It didn't care whether the owner of the body took the pill to heal or to cultivate. As long as the pills were beneficial to it, it would forcefully swallow them and snatch them to improve the cultivation speed of the crippled divine spirit body. Because the medicinal effect of the pills that were weakened were only 1%, Ning Fan could easily find the same type of pills to replace them when he was recuperating or cultivating. Even though the process was a little troublesome, it did not affect his cultivation and healing. Unfortunately, the immeasurable pill that was used to break through the bottleneck of the eternal immemorial realm contained the 10-leaf purple essence. Unfortunately, it was very difficult to find a substitute for the immeasurable pill. It was the most commonly used cultivation method by the ancient cultivators. Hence, every time Ning Fan consumed the immeasurable pill to break through to the eternal immemorial realm, more than 90% of the medicinal effect would be taken away by the crippled divine spirit body. If he was lucky, he could even pick about 10% of the medicinal effect of the immeasurable pill from the gaps between the teeth of the crippled divine spirit body and use it to cultivate towards the eternal immemorial realm. When Ning Fan was unlucky, he might not even be able to absorb half of the medicinal effects of an immeasurable pill. In some cases, he might not even be able to absorb 1% of the medicinal effects. The medicinal effect would be taken away by the crippled divine spirit body. If he had a surplus of immeasurable pills, Ning Fan would not mind spending most of the medicinal power to improve his crippled divine spirit body while only using a small portion of the medicinal power to improve his cultivation base. Unfortunately, the number of immeasurable pills he had was very limited. Under the weakening of the medicinal power, the progress of his cultivation in the divine, demon and devil realms was very slow. Immeasurable Immurable Sect Immeasurable Fan's Heart. The Sea Spirit and Demi-Yang Sect of Divine of Sect, Realm of the Fan of the Meng He, Immurable Pills that stage Sea of Sect Realm of Sect, since hand happened. The Meng, and Immeasurable Meng Pill had pills. Was Pill Realm. The most popular pill in the illusionary world was the lower grade Immeasurable Pill, which belonged to the 9 Transformations Golden Pill. The middle grade and upper grade immeasurable pills belonged to the 9 Transformations Emperor Pill and the 10 Transformations Ancestor Pill respectively. They were extremely rare, and the recipe was never passed down. A low-grade immeasurable pill could help a peak thought-shattering realm cultivator convert 1 tribulation's worth of magic power. If it was used by a new immortal venerable, 2 pills would be needed to increase 1 tribulation's worth of magic power. If it was used by a first tribulation immortal venerable, the number of pills would be doubled, 4 pills. If it was used by a second tribulation immortal venerable, the number of pills would be doubled. Ning Fan had obtained a total of 6,700 immeasurable pills. All of them were low-grade pills. What kind of concept was this amount of immeasurable pills? If an ordinary peak thought demolisher were to absorb 500 infinity pills, he'd be able to convert 500 tribulations into magic power and become a new immortal monarch. 6,700 pills were enough for He clan and Meng clan to nurture 13 new immortal venerables. However, due to the fact that the debilitated body of a deity was too stubborn, the amount of immeasurable pills he consumed on his body could only allow his cultivation base to produce around 100 tribulation magic power. There was still a huge gap between his cultivation base and 500 tribulations magic power. According to this cultivation speed, he still needed another 26 to 7,000 immeasurable pills to break through to the eternal ancient realm in all three of his cultivation bases. 26 to 7,000 immeasurable pills. Immortal emperor level forces like the He clan that had a huge amount of immeasurable pills were only a minority. Most of the other immortal emperor level forces only had the same amount of immeasurable pills as the Meng clan. If he could obtain 1,700 immeasurable pills by annihilating an immortal emperor level force, Ning Fan would need to annihilate another 16 immortal emperor level forces to gather enough pills for his cultivation base to break through to the eternal ancient realm. Annihilating 16 immortal emperor level forces, this was just like a fantasy. Did he really think that immortal emperor level forces were cabbages that could be found everywhere? If it wasn't because the debilitated body of a deity was so stubborn, it certainly wouldn't be so difficult for us to break through to the eternal ancient realm. How can I obtain such a large amount of pills? It's not very practical to annihilate immortal emperor level forces. Could it be that I have to find the medicinal ingredients myself and concoct the immeasurable pills? Ning Fan's frown deepened. Immeasurable pills were the supreme treasures of cultivation in the eternal ancient realm. They were strategic resources. Very few cultivators in the eternal ancient realm would sell them. Most of the cultivators in the eternal ancient realm would immediately refine and consume the immeasurable pills once they get their hands on them. Only immortal emperor level forces would store a certain amount of immeasurable pills in their warehouses in order to strengthen their forces. Of course, it was impossible for them to store too many of them. After all, the cultivation of the immortal emperors of each clan also required a large amount of immeasurable pills. Immeasurable pills were 9 revolutions golden pills. There were many 9 revolutions golden pill refinement masters in the Great Humble clan. That was why each clan had a considerable amount of pills in reserve. The number of cultivators in the eternal ancient realm was also far more than the number of cultivators in the 4 heavens. In the 4 heavens immortal world, the amount of immeasurable pills that the immortal emperor level forces had was actually not as much as the Meng clan. Due to the scarcity of immeasurable pills, the difficulty of breaking through to the eternal ancient realm for the cultivators in the 4 heavens was far higher than that of the cultivators in the Great Humble clan. If the cultivators in the 4 heavens wanted to break through to the immortal venerable realm, they could not rely on the forces behind them. They could only rely on their own luck to accumulate enough immeasurable pills. They could either search for the medicinal ingredients and ask the few 9th Revolution Golden Core pill refinement masters of the 4 heavens to concoct pills, or search for the cave dwellings of ancient cultivators and occasionally find some immeasurable pills. It was because the 9th Revolution Golden Core pill refinement masters could concoct immeasurable pills that they had unimaginable appeal to the cultivators in the eternal ancient realm. In the past, the sect master of the pill sect could organize a huge anti-Ning alliance with his true immortal realm cultivation base. This was the proof of his appeal. As for the pill recipe, Ning Fan had it. The heaven-reaching cult did not sell the pill recipe of the immeasurable pill to the cultivators in the illusory dream world. Fortunately, Ning Fan had obtained the pill recipe of the low-grade immeasurable pill when he annihilated the He clan. Thus, he did not lack this item. In terms of pill concoction technique, Ning Fan was still not good enough to concoct the 9th Revolution Golden Pill. However, the Great Humble clan did not lack pill refinement masters. He could just capture a Gold Core Realm pill refinement master to concoct pills for him. Medicinal ingredients were the most troublesome part. In order to concoct a immeasurable pill, One would need to consume hundreds of types of 5 million years old spiritual herbs and 4 types of innate spiritual herbs as the main ingredients. The 4 main ingredients were 10-leaf purple essence, profound essence Rehmannia, 5 radiance cloud dew, and 800 million heavy wood. The other medicinal ingredients were still easy to find. No matter how rare they were, one could always find some of them. Only the 800 million heavy wood was the hardest to find. As the name suggested, the 800 million heavy wood was a heavy wood that had been formed for more than 800 million years. Only at this age could it attain innate medicinal power and become the main ingredient of the immeasurable pill. It took 800 million years for it to have the chance to take shape. It was not hard to imagine how rare it was. Every time 800 million heavy wood was excavated in the cultivation world, no matter how big or small it was, it could be sold at a sky-high price. It could even cause immortal venerables, immortal kings, and immortal emperors to go crazy over it. If it's a slightly larger 800 million heavy wood, it would be enough to trigger a war between some immortal emperor's forces. It seems like it's also very difficult to concoct pills by myself. It seems like I can't be in a hurry to break through to the eternal ancient realm. Several days later, in the southern border grasslands, Tamu tribe. Ning Fan had committed 3 major crimes in the wood flame, sky flame, and stone flame consecutively. His unimaginable achievements had not only shaken the 3 flames but also spread to the entire Great Bay Grassland. As a result, the people of the Great Bay Grassland were extremely afraid of the ghost-face ferocious tide that appeared on the 3 Flames continent. He was afraid that the ghost-masked cultivator would leave the 3 Flame continent and return to the Great Bay Prairie after he was done messing around. According to the rumors, the ghost-masked cultivator had first killed Bai Lu enlightened being at the Dabii Plains, then went to the Tri-Flames Plains to kill the 2 martial monarchs, He Zhu and Meng Zhu. Who could guarantee that the ghost-faced cultivator would not return to the grasslands to cause trouble? Apart from the celestial emperor of the Holy Mountain, there were only the 5 emperors of the Middle Continent and a few 6th Tribulation celestial emperors who lived in seclusion. Not to mention the fact that one of the 5 emperors of the Middle Continent had been beaten half to death by Sovereign II. Even the celestial emperor of the Sacred Mountain at his peak was quite fearful of the words ghost-faced cultivator. To be able to kill immortal emperors, and to be able to kill 2 of them, how could he be ordinary? How could an immortal emperor be so easily killed? One should know that even a 7th and 8th Tribulation immortal emperor would find it difficult to kill a 6th Tribulation immortal emperor. Immortal emperors were known for being difficult to kill. Even if they were no match for them, they could still escape. Was his real cultivation base really just the venerated immortal realm that was rumored in the outside world? Countless experts expressed their doubts. Obviously, they did not believe it. They were more willing to believe that Ning Fan was an immortal emperor who had reached the peak 8th Tribulation or even the 9th Tribulation realm. That was why he could come and go as he pleased in the 3 Flame continent. That was why the 3 Flame lords could not do anything to him. That was why the 2 immortal emperors could not even run away from him. Since this devil could come and go as he pleased in the 3 Flame continent, he could also come and go as he pleased in the Sacred Mountain. After all, the overall strength of the Sacred Mountain and the 3 Flame continents were basically equal. Those immortal emperors of the Sacred Mountain who had been living like princes all year round began to panic. Countless mausoleum guardians of the Sacred Mountain were sent out to secretly collect all the information about the ghost-faced cultivator in order to deal with any mishaps. However, most of the panic was concentrated in the circle of the major forces. In a small place like the southern border where one could easily forget about it, they actually did not have much of an idea about the terror of the ghost-faced cultivator. The existence of an ancient being was too far away from their lives. Besides, no one thought that a terrifying existence like the ghost-faced cultivator would attack a small force in the southern border. Would an eagle prey on ants on the ground? After the first round of the mausoleum seizing competition ended, all the tribes in the southern border returned to their normal lives. The second and third rounds basically had nothing to do with them. The martial law imposed on the ghost-faced cultivator had nothing to do with these small tribes. They should eat and drink. Why should they care about other people's business? If they had the leisure time, they might as well hurry up and complete the lightning sacrifice quota of each tribe and hand over the lightning to the holy envoys who came to collect the lightning. A storm swept across the entire Great Bay region. However, it did not affect the lives of those small tribes. Most of the tribes in the southern border were still living peaceful lives with occasional small fights. The only tribe that was not living a leisurely life was probably the Tamu tribe that was plagued with bad luck. In the past, the Tamu tribe was bullied by the other tribes because they had offended Great Emperor Lu Tua. Later on, because of the arrival of an external cultivator, the Tamu tribe suddenly rose to power and actually showed signs of becoming the #1 force in the southern border. Unfortunately, not long after that external cultivator came, he destroyed the punishment ring and became a sinner. He even colluded with the master of the blood martial weapon and went on a killing spree outside Lu City in the Middle State. Several immortal emperors were severely injured and more than 10 immortal venerables and immortal kings were killed. Ning Fan ran away. The master of the blood martial weapon was captured. The Tamu tribe became Ning Fan's scapegoat. Ever since Ning Fan's death, the Tamu tribe had been condemned by various parties. They claimed that the Tamu tribe was the accomplice of that evil external cultivator. They should be punished severely just like the master of the blood martial weapon. There was even a group of cultivators from the Holy Mountain who came to the Tamu tribe to punish them with anger. However, just as they were about to announce the punishment, an unexpected immortal emperor suddenly came to the Tamu tribe. Under his protection, the Tamu tribe did not suffer any punishment from the Holy Mountain. They were just given a verbal warning by the people from the Holy Mountain. That immortal emperor who came to protect the Tamu tribe was actually Great Emperor Lu Tua. Among the 5 emperors of the Middle State, Tiandu, Baihua, Guling and Budasab were all severely injured by the master of the blood martial weapon when they were chasing after Ning Fan. Only Emperor Lu Tua, who had left Lu City in advance, was smart enough to avoid the disaster. Everyone in the world knew that Emperor Lu Tua had been suppressing the Tamu tribe for many years. However, no one expected that when the Tamu tribe was in danger, it was Emperor Lu Tua who spoke to the envoys from the Holy Mountain and protected the Tamu tribe. The simple and honest people of the Tamu tribe soon forgot about Emperor Lu Tua's bullying in the past and began to thank him for saving their lives. Outsiders, on the other hand, secretly guessed that Emperor Lu Tua must have a scheme for his unreasonable actions. As for what his scheme was, no one knew. In short, no one would think that Great Emperor Lu Tua, who had been bullying the Tamu tribe for many years, would suddenly find his conscience and become the protector of the Tamu tribe. All in all, with Emperor Lu Tua's protection, even though the Tamu tribe was being condemned by the public, they did not face any major disasters. Not far away from the Tamu tribe were dozens of short mountains. Emperor Lu Tua was sitting cross-legged and meditating on the peak of one of the mountains at the center. He was comprehending the profound laws of heaven and earth. Outsiders were not allowed to climb this mountain. Ever since he showed up to protect the Tamu tribe that day, Emperor Lu Tua had been staying here. He meditated day and night without meeting anyone, and no one dared to disturb his peaceful cultivation. Some people said that Emperor Lu Tua was planning a big game of chess. He wanted to ruthlessly scheme against the Tamu tribe. That was why he was staying here. There were also rumors that Emperor Lu Tua was just waiting for someone in this mountain range. Today, an uninvited guest appeared in the mountains not far away from the Tamu tribe. He ignored Emperor Lu Tua's ban and climbed this mountain. It was a silver-haired cultivator with a ghost face. The moment he climbed to the peak of the mountain, Emperor Lu Tua opened his eyes and slowly rose to his feet. He cupped his fists at the ghost-faced cultivator. Recently, he had heard many things about this ghost-faced cultivator. It was impossible for him not to know about it. The others did not know who this ghost-faced cultivator was. However, he was good at scheming and he had some guesses. Fellow Taoist is finally here. It has only been a few months, but Fellow Taoist's name has already spread across the 2 regions. Countless old monsters of the 3 flames and the sacred mountain are unable to eat and sleep in peace. I have already expected that Fellow Taoist would have extraordinary means, but I have still underestimated you. Fellow Taoists' means are not just extraordinary. They are simply world-shocking. If I'm not mistaken, fellow Taoists' current strength should already be above mine, right? Emperor Lu Tuo's eyes narrowed slightly and said with a smile. Deep inside his heart, however, he was not as calm as he seemed on the surface. Instead, he was filled with turbulent waves. He could feel an extremely heavy pressure coming from Ning Fan's body right now. You knew that I would come? Ning Fan gave Emperor Lu Tuo a meaningful look. The reason why he passed by the Tamu tribe was because he wanted to see if this force that had some karmic ties with him would be punished because of him. However, he did not expect to see great Emperor Lu Tuo here. I wasn't completely sure that fellow Taoist would come. I just wanted to try my luck to see if I could meet the ghost-faced cultivator who has risen to fame today. That's why I stayed in the Tamu tribe. I would like to apologize to fellow Taoist and ask for your forgiveness. Emperor Lu Tuo said with a smile. Forgiveness? You used me to get rid of that troublesome disciple of yours and caused me to have no choice but to form karmic ties with the dead emperor. This debt doesn't seem to be something that can be resolved with just an apology, right? Ning Fan asked meaningfully. Fellow Taoist must be joking. Of course, I won't expect fellow Taoists to forgive me with just a few words. However, if I give this to you, it will be enough. Emperor Lu Tuo flipped his hand and took out a jade box that gave off a fiery aura and passed it to Ning Fan. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with ruthlessness. He received the jade box and scanned it with his spirit sense. Then he was slightly surprised. There were actually 4 complete innate fire spirits. They were not the problematic fire spirits that Emperor Lu Tuo had extracted from his own cultivation base. Instead, they were the newly born fire spirits that Lu Tuo had refined for countless years but had yet to devour and refine. Ning Fan had devoured an innate fire spirit before this. If he devours these 4 spirits, the grade of his devil flames would have a great chance to rise from the 12 abstinence grade to the innate devil flames. This old man Lu Tuo was really generous in asking for his forgiveness. It's not enough. Ning Fan said indifferently. Emperor Lu Tuo's eyes narrowed slightly. Then he laughed and said, I was just using someone else to do my dirty work. I just schemed against fellow Taoist once. Fellow Taoist really has a big appetite. Forget it. If fellow Taoist thinks that it's not enough, I still have other compensations that I can give you. In addition to this, it will be enough. Then he took out another jade box and gave it to Ning Fan. Ning Fan scanned the second jade box with his spirit sense. To his surprise, the second jade box contained 50 mid-grade immeasurable pills. The medicinal power of a mid-grade immeasurable pill was equivalent to 100 low-grade immeasurable pills. The price of 50 mid-grade immeasurable pills was equivalent to the total value of 5,000 low-grade immeasurable pills. In fact, it was even slightly higher. To any ancient force, this item was a rare and valuable item. It was enough to create 10 new immortal venerables. To Ning Fan now, it was still useful. However, it was still not enough to erase the scheme he had in the past. Once? You schemed against me a total of 3 times. You used someone else to do your dirty work 3 times. Killing Bai Lu was just one of them. The first time I used someone else to do my dirty work was when I just arrived here. You tried to make things difficult for me in the Tamu sect. At that time, you insisted on removing my Zhongyu's veil and made things difficult for me regarding the punishment. In the eyes of others, you were the one who bullied a junior and a weak Tamu sect without caring about your status. It was a sign of your narrow-mindedness and hatred towards external cultivators. However, that was just your disguise. Your tolerance is far greater than what others imagine you to be. You are also more shrewd than what others imagine you to be. This is the first time you put on a disguise. When you schemed against me, you also schemed against Great Emperor Gu Ling. I don't know why you wanted Gu Ling to be the peacemaker of this matter. Perhaps, you just wanted Gu Ling to say the words 5-colored medicine soul from his mouth to achieve some unknown goal. Lu Tuo's eyes flashed with a strange light as if he did not expect that Ning Fan could see through so many things. The second time you used someone else to do your dirty work was during the first round of the written test when I was seizing the mausoleum. You first destroyed my results and then used the stone flame volcano to suppress me. At that time, I just thought that you were trying to make things difficult for me by hook or by crook. Later on, I understood it. When you schemed against me, you might not have set up a trap for the Heaven Capital. You knew that the Heaven Capital was looking for someone who could see a perfect result. Thus, you destroyed my results. Because my results in the written test were 0, the others rarely paid attention to me. The only one who paid attention to this matter was the Heaven Capital Great Emperor, who thought that he had hidden himself well. You also gave me an innate fire spirit. It seemed like you were going to kill me, but you might have purposely left me a chance to escape. I don't know what you are plotting against the Heaven Capital Great Emperor. If it wasn't for your scheme, the Heaven Capital Great Emperor probably wouldn't have sent me an invitation to the Ancient Buddha Gathering. You might be the one behind this. I'm guessing that the Ancient Buddha Gathering is also part of your scheme. However, the one you schemed against is not me but Heaven Capital. Unfortunately, I missed the Ancient Buddha Gathering because I had other important matters to attend to. It seems like some of your secret plans have failed. Lu Tua let out a soft cry of surprise. He did not expect that Ning Fan would also be able to figure out the scheme of the Heaven Capital Great Emperor. Then, for the third time, you used me to get rid of Sha Bailu. You continued to build up my reputation in order to arouse Sha Bailu's interest in killing me. However, that foolish man didn't even know that all of this was just a scheme of yours to kill him with a borrowed knife. It was a great scheme of yours to get rid of the reincarnated spirit body of the Death Emperor. I don't know how you formed the karmic ties with the Death Emperor. I only know that you dragged me into this without permission and transferred your karmic ties to me. Or perhaps, what you are afraid of is not the Death Emperor's scheme but the flame ancestor in his body. Lu Tua frowned slightly, but he did not refute Ning Fan's words. After a long time, he smiled bitterly and said, "Sure enough, I can't hide anything from fellow Taoist. You're right. I didn't get someone else to do my dirty work once. Instead, I did it thrice. Since fellow Taoist already knows everything, it would be rather embarrassing for me to deny it. Compared to the other supreme beings, you seem to be the most afraid of the flame ancestor." Ning Fan said meaningfully, How can I not be afraid? Being targeted by an existence like the flame ancestor, no matter how many lives I have, it won't be enough." Emperor Lu Tua laughed and changed the topic. "Could it be that the destruction of your cultivation base by immortal concubine Zhongyu in the past was also an outcome that you deliberately created? You would rather destroy your own cultivation base to avoid the flame ancestor's scheme? You're really a cruel and merciless person. You can even be so cruel to yourself. Compared to becoming a part of someone else's reincarnated spirit body, I would rather be a free and unfettered sixth tribulation immortal emperor forever. Perhaps one day, I will die due to the great heavenly tribulation because my cultivation base can no longer improve. However, dying a natural death like this is still better than being puppets like the Death Emperor and the Light Buddha. Do their cultivation bases really belong to them? If I wanted to, the flame ancestor wouldn't have chosen the Death Emperor as his body in the past. The current master of the Sky Flame would probably be me. However, I don't want to lose my freedom. Thus, I made use of immortal concubine Zhongyu and destroyed my own cultivation base. After that, all the schemes that I've been plotting for countless years are just to survive in the gaps of this grassland. I'm meat on someone else's chopping block. What can I do? If fellow Taoist has been schemed against by a powerful being that you can't resist, you can more or less understand my feelings. Speaking of which, you seem to be a part of the scheme of a certain supreme being of the Great Inferiority. This Great Inferiority grassland, this sacred mountain, these three flames and the entire Supreme Pill sacred region are full of schemes between people. It's sad and lamentable. Fellow Taoist, do you know that one of the 5 venerated beings of the Great Inferiority grassland is called Ah Feng? Her profession is a songstress and she takes pleasure in manipulating the sorrow and joy of the people. Do you know how many people in this grassland are just created by her illusory technique? They aren't real but they don't know it. Do you know that even the master of the blood martial weapon, who was once the strongest person of his generation and was equally famous as the Death Emperor and the Light Buddha, was just created by a single illusory technique of that songstress? Do you know that the songstress had already set her eyes on you the moment you stepped into the Supreme Pill sacred region? Supreme 10Bs isn't a good person. There's another person among the 5 venerated beings of the great inferiority. He takes the name Ox Ghost and makes vats as his profession. He mingles in the streets, and his real purpose is to comprehend the Tao of reincarnation from the round mouth of the water vat. If he just wants to comprehend the fortune of heaven and earth by himself, he will be harmless to others. However, he is not a good person at all. Fellow Taoist seems to have a disciple who was born in the southern border, right? When that disciple of yours was young, he witnessed his mother dying under the stone flame volcano with his own eyes. He has a monstrous hatred towards the stone flame volcano, and because he hates his own cowardice and incompetence, he split his personality. Do you know that this is actually the result of Supreme Ox Ghost's deliberate actions? There will be a day when that disciple of yours achieves his Tao and dies after being plucked by that old man Ox Ghost. Isn't that sad? There's another person among the 5 venerated beings of the great inferiority. He took the name of Medicine Master and gave alms to all living beings while he was still alive. He was respected by countless people of the great inferiority and offered incense for many years. It has been passed down from generation to generation and became a custom in this place. That person has a kind appearance but an evil heart. He is not worthy of being called the good corpse of a saint. The radiant Buddha is only his reincarnated spirit body and a stepping stone for him to return to the cultivation world. Have you heard of this rumor? Back then, immortal concubine Zhang Yu entered the Supreme Pill sacred region and beat the radiant Buddha, who had a shallow cultivation to the point of half-death. After the incident, not only did the radiant Buddha not hate Zhang Yu, he even cultivated his body as a Buddha and fell in love with that evil woman. When that evil woman perished along with the ancient heavenly court in the outside world, the radiant Buddha sadly rushed out of the sacred mountain. It became a popular story for a period of time. The people of the world even wrote a poem to praise the radiant Buddha. It was praising the radiant Buddha for being a Buddha cultivator but having feelings. Unfortunately, the so-called infatuation with Zhang Yu was just a facade. He only coveted Zhang Yu's special cultivation technique. That's all. After Zhang Yu died and his plan failed, he naturally became depressed. He actually never took half a step out of the sacred mountain mausoleum. However, this depression has nothing to do with any bullshit feelings. One of the 5 Supremes conspired against the fire spirit race that was sealed underground. On the surface, he conspired against the sword ancestor of the Sky Flame Corpse Mountain. The Death Emperor was his puppet and the Tri-Flames were his toys. Countless Tri-Flames elites who obtained the Golden Flame ancestral token were all within his calculations. His hand even extended from the Tri-Flames to the grassland. In order to become a saint, he did not hesitate to betray the Southern Alchemy Saint. After the Southern Alchemy Saint died unexpectedly, he made a bet with the Medicine Buddha. The two of them divided the Supreme Pill sacred region and created the structure of the Tri-Flames and the sacred mountain. What a pity, what a pity. He schemed against this old man but was cleverly avoided by me. He could only settle for the second best and chose to possess the Death Emperor. He schemed against the Sword Ancestor, but that Sword Ancestor was transcended by you, causing the matter of obtaining the Sword Ancestor's supreme sword Tao to go up in smoke. What a satisfaction, what a satisfaction. The 2 most shameful miscalculations of the first Flame Ancestor in his life happened to the 2 of us. Isn't it great? The Tri-Flames and the Sacred Mountain are just a chessboard for the 4 Supremes. They are competing and fighting to see who can obtain the Southern Alchemy Saint's relic in the end. They are the first to break through the ancient grand cultivation realm and the first to become a saint. What a pity, what a pity. These 4 people are actually still within the Southern Alchemy Saint's calculations. The Southern Alchemy Saint died miserably. There is no record of this in the history of Debay, but I still found out the cause of his death through some channels. The Southern Alchemy Saint was born in the desolate ancient immortal realm of the origin world. He was the messenger sent by the desolate ancient immortal realm to retrieve the number 1 immortal emperor of the primordial era, the Sword Ancestor's corpse. Unfortunately, the Southern Alchemy Saint failed to retrieve the Sword Ancestor's corpse. Instead, he was severely injured by the Sword Ancestor. In his weakened state, the evil corpse betrayed him, causing the Dao Mountain to collapse. Even the supreme pill sacred region he created was lost in immortal Emperor Zido's illusory world. However, how could the Southern Alchemy Saint be willing to accept that? Hence, he plotted and schemed. He wanted to take revenge. It's fine if the Flame Ancestor is living an ignoble life. However, if he covets to become a saint, then one day he will fall into the trap set up by the Southern Alchemy Saint before his death. Cultivation, cultivation, cultivation. What exactly is this truth? Each and every one of them is a hypocrite. Is it possible for them to cultivate the true truth? I don't believe it, but I don't have the right to criticize them because I am also one of those hypocrites. I am a despicable person who lives an ignoble life and uses unscrupulous means. Now, I have told fellow Taoist many secrets. I'm sure they will be helpful to you. Can you treat this as my third compensation to fellow Taoist? Emperor Luo Tuo no longer said anything. Instead, he stared at Ning Fan deeply, waiting for his answer. Ning Fan's expression remained unchanged, but his heart was in turmoil. In the past, he felt that there was a layer of mist in the Debay clan that he could not see through. However, with Emperor Luo Tuo's reminder today, he immediately understood where this mist came from. So that's how it is. It turns out that every single plant and tree in the entire Debay clan is being schemed by the saints and quasi-saints of the Debay clan. With such complicated schemes in people's hearts, it was truly a terrifying place. Ning Fan suddenly felt a little bored. He actually could not bring himself to hate Lu Tuo, who was a true despicable person who dared to speak the truth. Even though Emperor Luo Tuo had used him, he always had a sense of propriety and never crossed Ning Fan's bottom line. Now that he told Ning Fan the truth and gave him compensation, it helped Ning Fan to clear up the mist in front of him. Given Ning Fan's style of doing things, he was already too lazy to deal with Lu Tuo. This person's intelligence is like that of a demon. He even knows Ning Fan's character very well. This person is also good at seeking fortune and avoiding calamity. The fact that he could survive the schemes of many supreme beings from the ancient times until today was enough to prove his capabilities. This person is even more ruthless and decisive. In order to protect himself, he was even willing to destroy his own Dao cultivation foundation like a warrior cutting off his own wrists. Such courage is not something that ordinary people can have. This person can be said to be the most outstanding person below the many supreme beings. In Ning Fan's opinion, this person's innate potential is much higher than the Light Buddha and the Dead Emperor. I have indeed received your compensation. However, the way you pointed me out in the end was also because you wanted to use me to deal with some supreme beings, didn't you? Even though your Dao Foundation has been destroyed, your ambition to compete with those supreme beings for the fortune is still there. You are really a despicable person. Emperor Luo Tuo laughed heartily. He did not feel insulted by Ning Fan's words at all. From today onwards, the grudges between us will be written off. However, if you plot against me again, I can't guarantee that I will let you continue to live. Ning Fan said expressionlessly. I can't guarantee that. However, I can guarantee one thing. Even if I plot against you again in the future and implicate you, I will certainly have a sense of propriety. I won't let the situation become so serious that I will become your enemy. I hope you can do that. Fellow Taoist, if you have time, you can come to my imperial peak as a guest. I will certainly welcome you with open arms. This conversation with fellow Taoist has really made me feel very satisfied. It's fine to be your guest as long as you aren't afraid of being implicated by my identity as an external cultivator. However, if I go to your imperial peak as a guest, I hope that fellow Taoist can meet me in your true form instead of using a clone to talk to me. Ning Fan gave Emperor Luo Tuo a deep look and left in a flash. He had already confirmed Ta Mu's safety and resolved the karma between him and Emperor Luo Tuo. There was no point for him to stay here any longer. A long time after he left, Emperor Luo Tuo finally heaved a sigh of relief. Then he smiled bitterly. That young man really has terrifying eyesight. He could actually see through the clone of my flame ancestor spirit splitting technique. I was too fearful of him. That's why I only dared to come here with my clone. I was afraid that he would be stubborn and ignore my attempt to make up for it and kill me. Now, it seems like such a backup plan is a little unnecessary. That young man's karma is very clear. As long as he doesn't cross his bottom line, it's not impossible to reconcile with him. To be able to kill 2 sovereigns in a row, I'm afraid he's 1 in 100 generations among the ancient immortal venerables. This kind of aura is really oppressive. My avatar's back is actually drenched in cold sweat. The successor of the ancient chaos sect is really no small matter. The descendants of the Lai origin sect are really terrifying. It's indeed the wisest decision to bury the hatchet with that young man. Next, let's see if that young man is more skillful or if that female singer has hidden her true strength better. That young man is wrong. In my entire life, the person I fear the most is not the flame ancestor but that female singer. Bang! A loud explosion resounded. Emperor Luo Tuo's body exploded into traces of fiery light and dissipated between heaven and earth. At the same time, Luo Tuo's true body, who was far away in the middle state, received the memory of reconciliation from his clone. He heaved a sigh of relief. He was the person who hid the deepest among the 5 emperors of the middle state. He was also the shrewdest person among them. The shrewdness of the other 4 emperors could not be compared to his at all. They would never think that the ghost-faced cultivator who shocked the world would be Ning Fan. They also would not know that if they do not reconcile with Ning Fan now and resolve the karma, they would definitely face a great disaster in the future. Let's see which of the great emperors of the middle state this young man will deal with first. Those 4 idiots had already gone after that ominous star that day. Especially that idiot from the 100 Flowers sect. He originally had an alliance with that ominous star, but he was actually stupid enough to betray the alliance. My choice is indeed correct. If I don't avoid the incident in Lioli City and attack this young man as well, with his ruthlessness, it's impossible for me to reconcile with him today. Night fell on the middle state. In the darkness of the night, a silver-haired man with a ghost face arrived at the border of the middle state. He did not immediately enter the middle state to seek revenge from the few great emperors of the middle state. Instead, he went underground to look for the 100-li stone dragon that was abandoned deep underground. It was the devil beast of Devil's son Meng Zhen. It was the pitiful beast servant who had been forcefully controlled by Ning Fan's illusion technique and killed his master with his own hands. Today, the 100-li stone dragon had yet to break free from the control of Ning Fan's illusion technique. It was in agony at every moment. It wished that it could die together with its master. It wished that it could avenge its master and kill Ning Fan. However, under the illusion, it was unable to sacrifice itself to its master, nor could it avenge its master. Because of the illusion, it had no choice but to obey the enemy's orders. He could neither live nor die. Ning Fan dived into the ground and arrived in front of the stone dragon. He who had already cultivated the communication technique of all living things realm could easily hear the cries of sorrow in the stone dragon's heart. Do you still hate me? Do you hate me for killing your old master, Meng Zhen? Moo! This was the roar of sorrow in the heart of the 100-li stone dragon. It was its resistance to the words, master. It did not have an old master or a new master. It was also impossible for Ning Fan to be its new master. In this life, it would only recognize Meng Zhen as its master. The king in its heart was only Meng Zhen. When he opened his eyes again, they were filled with coldness. I have a piece of news to tell you. Not only did I kill the devil's son Meng Zhen, but I also killed the immortal emperor of the Meng family and imprisoned everyone in the Meng family as incensed slaves. Do you hate me even more now? Moo! The 100-li stone dragon roared even louder. That sad roar contained deep feelings for the Meng family. It was filled with intense hatred for Ning Fan. Unfortunately, cultivation is such a cruel thing. You all attacked me first and wanted to kill me. Therefore, you all have to pay the price. You are very loyal, which made me admire you. However, this admiration is not enough to make you work for me. I rarely have a deep conversation with people. This is my first time talking to a giant beast that I can't speak. I can always control you with my illusion technique and order you around for the rest of your life. However, I'm more willing to give you two other options to free yourself from this endless pain. Either you forget your old master and worship me as your new master, or I will give you the chance to sacrifice yourself for your master. It was the first time Ning Fan broke free from the illusion technique since he controlled the 100-Li Stone Dragon. As soon as the 100-Li Stone Dragon's illusory technique was broken, it regained its freedom. The first thing it did was to use every bit of strength in its gigantic body to ram towards Ning Fan with all its might. Its intention could be seen through even without the communication technique of all living things realm. It did not choose the first option but the second one. It was just a giant beast that could not understand human language. However, it had more integrity than many people in the cultivation world. Even though both of them were enemies, Ning Fan still could not hide his admiration for this beast. Unfortunately, he could not let the tiger return to the mountain just because he admired it. If he shows mercy to it for a moment, it would probably incur the beast's crazy revenge at all costs. If he still could not subdue this beast in the end, he could give it a dignified release. He did not retaliate, nor did he put up any defenses. Instead, he allowed the stone dragon to charge at him recklessly and stood firm in the collapsing ground. He was unscathed. The force of the stone dragon's charge was comparable to that of a third tribulation immortal king. It could not hurt Ning Fan at all. The 100-Li Stone Dragon was shocked, bitter, and sorrowful. It was not Ning Fan's match. It could not avenge its master. It was impossible. Meng Zhen was dead. The Meng family was destroyed. Its home was no longer there. Mood at the Stone Dragon suddenly stopped attacking Ning Fan. Instead, for the first time since it was controlled by Ning Fan, it lowered its gigantic head and let out a low roar. It did not lower its head because it was afraid of Ning Fan's submission. It was just grateful for Ning Fan's mercy for allowing it to die in a dignified manner instead of being controlled by an illusion technique. Ning Fan slowly closed his eyes. Then, he heard a loud rumbling sound of the ground collapsing. The stone dragon destroyed its own demon core. It lost all of its cultivation base. In the end, with its mortal body that had lost its cultivation base, it crashed into the underground rock stratum and died. It sacrificed itself for its master. It would never yield. At this moment, the entire middle province was shaken by a strong earthquake. It shocked many people who lived near the border. However, the earthquake subsided very quickly. No one knew what caused the earthquake. However, because of the earthquake, the ground that stretched for 100 li outside the border of the middle province collapsed. It seemed to be the result of the collapse of a large amount of underground rock stratum. Some cultivators who were patrolling the border at night wanted to go underground to investigate. However, they could not reach the depth of the collapsed rock stratum and could only give up. No one knew that in the depths of the underground, there was a ghost-faced cultivator who had a terrifying reputation. In the darkness, there were countless rock stratum, and he was pouring wine as a sacrifice for a fallen beast. Then, Ning Fan breathed out a mouthful of devil flame and burned the giant corpse of the stone dragon. He buried the corpse in the fire, and the remains of the stone dragon disappeared in smoke. Then, he opened his Fu-Li spirit wheel and absorbed something from heaven and earth into his spirit wheel. If there is an afterlife, I will find a wise master. Speaking of which, with my ancient demon cultivation base, I am already qualified to cultivate the second spirit wheel of the 5 spirit wheel technique. Unfortunately, I haven't found a suitable place to cultivate. The environment required to cultivate the second spirit wheel is very harsh. Ning Fan's figure flashed and left the underground. The night became darker. The clouds and mist of the Bone Spirit Mountain covered the moonlight in the sky. A ghost-faced human figure stealthily sneaked into the mountain. Just like that, he used the chaotic world purple light to disrupt the layers of restrictive spells of the Bone Spirit Mountain and easily entered the depths of the mountain. In the entire Bone Spirit Mountain, only the great Emperor Bone Age could sense the arrival of the intruder. In the forbidden stone room of the Bone Spirit Mountain, the Bone Spirit Emperor whose physical body was destroyed and only his primordial spirit was left shivering slightly. Then, he turned his head with a trace of fear. Behind him, there was a silver-haired cultivator with a ghost face. Ghost face cultivator. Now that he had lost his physical body and his primordial spirit was severely injured, the cultivation base that the Bone Spirit Emperor could exert was only equivalent to that of an ordinary 5-tribulation immortal king. The other party was the ghost face cultivator who killed 2 emperors in a row and shocked the world. You have 2 choices. Become my Joss Flame slave or die. Ning Fan's eyes were emotionless and emotionless. Naturally, he would not be polite to the Bone Spirit Great Emperor who chased after him that day. He was already showing mercy by giving his Joss Flame slave a way out. I have a condition. If you can withstand one of my attacks, I will agree to become your Joss Flame slave. If you can't do it, I will never submit to you even if I have to die. The Bone Spirit Emperor's soul almost left his body. He forcefully suppressed the fear in his heart and tried to maintain his dignity as an immortal emperor. His eyes seemed to be calculating something, as if he was trying to find a chance of survival. Sure. Ning Fan's tone was still emotionless. However, his eyes that were glowing with green light instantly saw through all the secrets of the Bone Spirit Emperor. Heaven. Celestial Being Realm Cultivator. The face of the Bone Spirit Emperor's primordial spirit was shocked. His fear towards the ghost face cultivator had risen to an unprecedented level. Chapter 1077. When Gu Ling sensed that Ning Fan was a celestial being realm cultivator, there was an unprecedented fear on his face. If he knew that Ning Fan was not at the first level of the heavenly being realm but the second level, he would probably be even more shocked. Become Ning Fan's incense slave? Gu Ling would never have such a humiliating thought. Most of the emperors in the world would rather die than become slaves to cultivators of the same level. This was the dignity of an emperor. Without this spirit, one would not be able to surpass the 9-5 grand tribulation of an immortal emperor and would have died on the path of tribulation. Gu Ling's condition of 1 strike was a scam. He knew that he was no match for Ning Fan at the moment. That was why he wanted to plot against Ning Fan. Gu Ling took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. Gradually, his breathing returned to normal and he said to Ning Fan, "Since you are willing to receive an attack from me, please come to the small world that I have created. The power of my attack is too great. If it were to affect the disciples of Bone Spirit Peak, I'm afraid that there would be heavy casualties." Gu Ling's primordial spirit drew a line in the air with its small hand. Suddenly, it opened up a void in the stone room and flashed into it. Ning Fan's eyes flashed with an undetectable hint of mockery. Very soon, however, it returned to normal and he followed behind the cultivator in the void. The void was boundless and it was difficult to see its edge. The moment Ning Fan stepped into the void, the entrance of the void cracks suddenly closed. There was no sign of Gu Ling in the endless void in front of him. Ning Fan tried to tear open the hollow space of this place. However, he realized that the walls of this place were indestructible. Without the permission of the master of the hollow space, even a low-grade innate magic treasure would not be able to break open this place. Is this your choice, Gu Ling? As expected of an immortal emperor. It seems like you would rather die than become my Joss Flame slave. Ning Fan said indifferently. I'm a great emperor, so of course I won't be your slave. Even if you're really an 8 tribulation or 9 tribulation immortal emperor, so what? Ghost-faced cultivator, you are too arrogant. You have to know that even if a first-level immortal emperor is heavily injured and his cultivation is greatly damaged, you can't use common sense to judge him. Could it be that killing 2 emperors in a row made you lose your vigilance when facing someone of the same level as you? You have already entered this old man's palm void. Without this old man's permission, it's impossible for you to blast open this place. This old man will use the rest of his life to refine you to death in this place. I will refine your flesh and blood to provide energy for my body to be rebuilt. Rumble. In the void, millions of meteorites the size of cultivation planets suddenly appeared. Then, all the meteorites turned into a large meteor shower that smashed down with destructive force. The densely interwoven laws of stone sealed the heavens and locked the earth, causing the space here to display an unimaginably sturdy quality. Ning Fan, whose eyes were glowing with green light, could vaguely see that this was the void domain of the stone palm position. It was not Gu Ling who had comprehended the palm void. Gu Ling did not have the ability to do so. There were only a few palm emperors in the age of ending illusionary world. It was not Gu Ling's turn. It was something that Gu Ling had obtained from somewhere. This void wasn't completely undamaged either. The interweaving Dao laws within had long been severely damaged. Unless one was the cultivator who created this void, there was no way they could repair it. Even so, the remaining power of the void still gave off a feeling of indestructibility. According to Ning Fan's guess, the original master of this void had most likely cultivated to the peak 9 tribulation realm or even the quasi-saint realm. That was why he could give this void such a strong defense. Besides, because the power of stone was a type of Dao law that could increase a cultivator's defense, the hardness of the void of the stone palm position was slightly stronger than ordinary void in the first place. As a result, even though the void of this place was half destroyed, it could still turn into a cage that had the power to trap an ordinary 6th tribulation immortal emperor. I have given you a chance. You are the one who missed it. Bang! Ning Fan's eyes turned cold under the ghost mask. He summoned the 7 treasures wondrous tree and produced hundreds and thousands of whooshing sounds. Countless stars and meteorites were blown to pieces. The destructive waves turned into violent gales that swept across the place, causing Ning Fan's silver hair to dance wildly and his white robes to flutter. It's actually the 7 treasures wondrous tree. Moreover, it has actually nurtured this tree to such a powerful level. Gu Ling's astonished voice resounded from the depths of the void. Then he shouted in a deep voice, "Ancient stone sword, appear!" As he shouted, the Tao of stone turned into hundreds and thousands of the 12 nirvana stone swords and fell from the sky. They could suppress hundreds of immortal venerables in a single blow. If Gu Ling uses his own cultivation base and uses his ability, he would not be able to achieve such destructive power. Only some 8th tribulation immortal emperors would be able to do it. Of course, if he borrows the external power of the void of this place, any ancient cultivator with sufficient magic power would be able to do it. Ning Fan recalled the scene where he witnessed Great Emperor Shen Kong of the Godly Void Pavilion unleashing his ability when Sun Luo was wreaking havoc in the Eastern Heaven. Shen Kong had once released 40,000 12th Nirvana magic treasures to attack Sun Luo. The momentum of the attack was earth-shattering and earth-shattering, shaking people's hearts. Anyone below the Immortal Emperor realm would definitely die if they were caught in the attack. Compared to Shen Kong's attack, Gu Ling's attack was much weaker. After all, this place was just a half-destroyed void of the palm position. It could not display its full power. Ning Fan no longer held back. He activated the God-destroying giant to defend himself. Then, the giant wielded the 7 treasures wondrous tree and crazily slashed at the swords. Bang! Countless stone swords were broken by the Tree of 7 Wonders, but there were also quite a few stone swords that missed the tree's attack and slashed the God-destroying giant's body. Explosions rang out incessantly, but none of them could break through the giant's defenses. This golden body. Could it be? Gu Ling's eyes widened in shock. He had once joined hands with the other emperors to besiege Ning Fan. He had witnessed Ning Fan's heaven-defying defense. Such a terrifying defense was definitely not wrong. The infamous ghost-faced cultivator was actually the external cultivator who had escaped from the middle state in a miserable state a few months ago. This ghost-faced cultivator was actually not an 8th tribulation immortal emperor but an ancient immortal venerate. It's you. Didn't you already leave the holy region? Why are you still here? How did you manage to avoid the light Buddha's pursuit? Gu Ling cried out involuntarily. Dead people don't need to know too much. Bang! In just 100 breaths, all the stone swords in front of him were destroyed by the God-destroying giant. Then, the giant tossed the 7 treasures wondrous tree to protect himself. With a wave of his giant palm, The ocean-defying sword turned into a giant sword and appeared in his palm. Then he slashed at the void of this place for thousands of times. It was not an ordinary slash. It was the Tao-severing divine sword that was getting more and more proficient. To ordinary Sixth Tribulation Great Emperors, the void of this place that was reinforced by the Tao of Stone was invincible. However, to Ning Fan, it was not a problem for him to be trapped by the Tao of Stone at this level. The 5 yin-yang swords that was passed down by Great Emperor Ancient Chaos was not to be trifled with. Under the thousands of slashes, the Tao of Stone that was intertwined in the void of the void kept crumbling. It could no longer form a palm realm technique to attack Ning Fan. Then he slashed with all his might. Bone Spirit, who was hiding under the Tao of Void, let out a muffled groan and fell out of the void. His primordial spirit's face was filled with fear. How is this possible? Even the palm realm of the previous Stoneman Emperor could not hurt Ning Fan at all. This was the palm realm of the previous strongest expert of the divine stone lineage of the Sacred Mountain. Even if it was half destroyed, it should not be like this. If I give you the same choice as before, you still won't become my Joss Flame slave, right? The God-destroying giant said coldly. Of course. Who do you think I am? How can I become someone's slave? Do you think I won't be able to kill you after destroying this palm realm? You're wrong. Bone Spirit's primordial spirit opened its mouth and spat out a ray of white light. It moved forward in the void and approached Ning Fan. Ning Fan fixed his eyes on it. It turned out to be a broken low-grade innate palm leaf fan. Whoosh! When the palm leaf fan was within a certain distance from Ning Fan, it suddenly used its ability and fanned at Ning Fan. As soon as it fanned, the Tao of Fire in the void of the void was triggered. It turned into tens of thousands of strands of white smoke. The surface of the God-destroying giant's body emitted a burnt smell when it was hit by the countless strands of smoke. Even though its defense was not directly broken, the golden flames were extinguished a little. If one fanning doesn't work, then I'll fan it 100 times or 1,000 times. Under the control of Bone Spirit's spirit sense, the palm leaf fan fanned at Ning Fan for 1,000 times in a short period of time. Under the impact of the fiery smoke, the golden flame armor of the God-destroying giant turned fiery red like a soldering iron. Unfortunately, it was still not enough to burn Ning Fan, who was inside the giant's body, and break his defense. Even the wind-fire palm leaf fan of Grandmaster can't burn this external cultivator's golden body. Bang! The God-destroying giant controlled the wondrous tree of 7 treasures to launch a counterattack. It brushed the broken palm leaf fan for 1,000 times, wiping away the precious light on the surface of the fan. After a few more brushes, even the mental connection within the treasure was broken. The palm leaf fan that had temporarily lost control was snatched away by the God-destroying giant. As the mental connection was broken, Bone Spirit coughed out golden blood again. His face was filled with shock and anger. How dare you steal my innate magic treasure? You deserve to die. Bone Spirit's eyes were dark and unpredictable. His primordial spirit performed a hand seal to forcefully suppress his injuries. Then, his spirit sense turned into a vast silver ocean and surged towards the God-destroying giant. The God-destroying giant used the ocean-defying sword and the wondrous tree of 7 treasures to brush the silver ocean. However, all of his attacks were in vain. He could not even touch the true body of the silver ocean. It was actually an illusory sea of spirit sense. What a strange spirit sense secret technique. At the next moment, the God-destroying giant was drowned in the silver sea. Countless spirit sense attacks penetrated through the armor of the God-destroying giant and hit Ning Fan, who was inside its body. The strange spirit sense attack could actually ignore the defense of the God-exterminating shield. It made Ning Fan pay more attention to Gu Ling for the first time. The means of an immortal emperor is really unpredictable. Then, he felt a sharp pain in his sea of consciousness. Gu Ling's spirit sense had already invaded his sea of consciousness. An immortal emperor's divine sense was extremely powerful, especially the great Emperor Boni. He had been cultivating his sea of consciousness all his life, and his divine sense was the strongest among the 5 emperors of the Middle Continent. Very few cultivators below the immortal emperor level could withstand the impact of his divine sense. It's only the sea of consciousness of an immortal venerable. It's not difficult for me to destroy such a sea of consciousness. Collapse. The Bone Spirit Emperor laughed heartily, but his laughter was filled with disdain. But right after that, he couldn't smile anymore. Collapse. Bang. Bang 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 bang. Why don't we collapse? I don't believe it, I don't believe it. How is it possible for a mere immortal venerable's sea of consciousness? Fear gradually appeared on the face of the Bone Spirit Emperor's primordial spirit. The level of Ningfan's sea of consciousness was obviously not high. However, its sturdiness was far beyond his imagination. No matter how hard he tried to attack it, he actually could not hurt Ningfan's sea of consciousness at all. He finally had a bad feeling. There were quite a lot of risks in invading the opponent's sea of consciousness with his spirit sense. He wanted to quickly withdraw his spirit sense, but it was already too late. Ningfan's eyes turned cold. The spirit sense that invaded his sea of consciousness was forcefully crushed by the power of his spirit sense. He was a deity with a crippled body. The sturdiness of his sea of consciousness was even higher than most of the immortal emperors. Gu Ling was not as good as him. Jiu Ling's primordial spirit spurted out golden blood. Because too much of his spirit sense had been destroyed, the injuries on his body worsened. Now that he was severely injured, the cultivation base that he could use was too little and the means that he could use were also too few. He could not use his eternal true body, his innate magic treasure was taken away and he could not use the palm void. He no longer had any chance of winning. He could only retreat for the time being and plan for the future. Gu Ling's primordial spirit tore the void of the palm void with his small hand, trying to escape from it. However, Ningfan pointed at him and stopped him at the same spot. Then he raised the divine refining cauldron high. A large amount of blood light swept out from the cauldron and turned into a ball of blood, trapping Gu Ling, who was filled with shock and anger within it. This is the Eastern Sky Ancestral Emperor's Heaven Sealing technique. With your cultivation base, it's impossible for you to seal me. Forcefully using it is just courting your own death. Why did you make me unable to move for several breaths? I don't believe it. Besides, you actually have the 7th cauldron of my ancestor. It's the inherited treasure of the Sea Shaman tribe. This cauldron has always been guarded by the Sea Devils of the Sea Shaman tribe. Why is it in your hands? You have been to the Sea Shaman tribe before. You have killed Bai Lu there. You went to the Sea Shaman tribe to get this cauldron. Damn it. Damn it. Let me out. Let me out. I don't want to be trapped by this cursed cauldron forever. Gu Ling's primordial spirit's face was filled with despair and he roared unwillingly. Rumor had it that the god-refining cauldron had a curse. That curse was a nameless bloodlight that could turn into a ball of blood. It could imprison immortal emperors, making them unable to escape in their lifetime. It was rumored that imprisoning the cauldron wasn't its goal, but that it existed to fulfill a certain function of the cauldron. It was rumored that the great despicable divine ancestor had studied this cauldron for his entire life, but he still could not figure out the mysterious use of this cauldron. After the sacred ancestor's death, the cauldron passed through many hands before it was obtained by the first Sea Witch. Since then, it had become the highest prison of the Sea Witch tribe. Any villains who harmed the Sea Witch tribe would be imprisoned in the 12 blood balls formed by the bloodlight of the cauldron. Damn it, damn it, damn it. No matter how hard Gu Ling struggled, he could not escape from the blood ball. Instead, the more he struggled, the faster the vitality in his body flowed away. It was all taken away by the blood ball and transferred into the tripod. Finally, Gu Ling gave up struggling. His eyes were filled with hatred. I didn't expect this cauldron to fall into your hands. Damn it, damn it. If this old man was at his peak, how could he have been taken into the cauldron by a mere immortal venerable like you? I refuse to accept this. I can't accept this. I don't care if you accept it or not, but you can't kill me. At most, you can only use this divine refining cauldron to trap me for a lifetime. The primordial spirit of an immortal emperor is famous for being difficult to kill. You probably can't kill me. Really can't kill me? Guling was still cursing. However, the more he cursed, the weaker his aura became. The more he cursed, the colder his body became. Ning Fan couldn't destroy the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor? No. That's not right. If he couldn't destroy it, how did the immortal emperors of the He clan and the Meng clan die? Could he be the third immortal emperor who died in Ning Fan's hands? No. Refine. As soon as Ning Fan uttered a word, Guling's vision turned black. He screamed and lost consciousness. In just tens of breaths, he was refined into nothingness by the blood light of the divine refining cauldron. Inside the cauldron, there were 220 drops of myriad spirit blood. In the past, when Ning Fan annihilated the Meng clan, he used Ancestor Meng's primordial spirit to refine 230 drops of myriad spirit blood. After that, he took in the cultivators of the Meng clan as his Joss Flame slaves. There were 3 immortal venerables who tried to escape. Among them, there was a third tribulation immortal king who refined 19 drops of myriad spirit blood. As for the 2 immortal venerables, one of them was a second tribulation immortal king while the other was a first tribulation immortal king. They only refined 8 drops of myriad spirit blood in total. It seemed like the higher the level of the cultivator who used the divine refining cauldron, the more drops of myriad spirit blood would be produced. To Ning Fan, the divine refining cauldron was a great method to refine the myriad spirit blood and improve the debilitated body of a divine being. It could help him gradually advance to the level of a postnatal divine being. Of course, the divine refining cauldron was also a great killing tool to destroy the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor. The primordial spirit of an immortal emperor was famous for being difficult to kill. If one could capture the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor alive, he could directly throw it into the blood light of the cauldron for refinement. In just a short while, the primordial spirit of an immortal emperor would be destroyed. It was much faster and more convenient than using other methods to kill an immortal emperor's primordial spirit. However, capturing it alive was much harder than killing it. Thus, Ning Fan could only capture it occasionally when he was dealing with severely injured immortal emperors like Ancestor Meng and Guling. However, if it is an immortal emperor who was in his prime, Ning Fan would not be able to capture him, let alone strip his primordial spirit and throw it into the blood sphere to refine pills. The third emperor. Ning Fan's eyes were calm. He was not as agitated as he was when he killed Hezu. After all, be it Ancestor Meng or Guling, they were both severely injured. That was why he could take advantage of them. After tens of breaths, Ning Fan broke the void of the palm position and walked out from it. Then, he took the general compass of Bone Spirit Mountains formation that he obtained from killing Guling and sealed the formation of this place. Then he stealthily moved in the night. Some cultivators who came to Bone Spirit Mountain under the cover of the night could not enter the main and auxiliary peaks because the formation was sealed. Thus, they could only turn back. 1 hour later, Ning Fan left Bone Spirit Mountain. The cultivation resources of this place were all plundered by him. Other than a few disciples of Bone Spirit who were knocked unconscious and dealt with, most of the disciples who had a close karmic connection with Bone Spirit were captured by him. Now, there were tens of thousands of Joss Flame slaves with strong cultivation bases. The innate magic treasure, Wind Fire Cattail Fan, became Ning Fan's spoils of war. Similarly, the void of the palm position that Bone Spirit used previously also became his spoils of war. The night was deep. After Ning Fan left Bone Spirit Mountain, he quietly went to the Laughter Weeping Peak where Buddha Sob Emperor resided. With his speed, it did not take him long at all. Compared to the 3 flames, there were not many immortal emperors in the middle state on the surface. Most of them were on the sacred mountain. Thus, no one noticed Ning Fan's stealthy movements. After slightly grasping the usage of the spoils of war, Ning Fan played with a black stone man's eye in his hand and quietly entered the depths of the Laughter Weeping Peak. Since he had taken control of the grand formation of Bone Spirit Mountain after killing Bone Spirit Emperor, the people from the outside could not enter the mountain. Thus, they did not know what kind of shocking changes had happened inside. On each peak of the Laughter Weeping Peak, the faint sounds of disciples chanting Buddhist scriptures could be heard. Many Buddhist cultivators were having their evening classes and they continued until late at night. Of course, there were also some disciples who were extremely loyal to Buddha Sab Emperor who were not in the mood to chant Buddhist scriptures. Instead, they were sitting in the Buddhist halls with their faces filled with sorrow and sighing nonstop. A few months ago, Buddha Sab Emperor participated in the pursuit of the external cultivator Ning Fan and was severely injured by the master of the blood martial weapon. His physical body was destroyed and only his primordial spirit managed to escape. The outside world only knew that Buddha Sab Emperor was severely injured, but they did not know to what extent. The severely injured Buddha Sab Emperor's primordial spirit was filled with death chi. On that day, he directly fell into a coma and was rescued by some disciples and brought back to the Laughter Weeping Peak. Some disciples who were proficient in medicine predicted that Buddha Sab Emperor was already at the end of his lifespan. Some disciples who were proficient in divination also said that there was black chi on Buddha Sab Emperor's face. He would definitely die in at least 3 to 5 years and at most 30 to 50 years. If Buddha Sab Emperor dies, the Laughter Weeping Peak would eventually decline. Perhaps it was time for the disciples of Buddha Sab Emperor who used to be envied by countless people to find another path. No one knew that the Bone Spirit Mountain was destroyed by Ning Fan that night. Moreover, he did not stop after destroying the Bone Spirit Mountain. Instead, he boldly went to the territory of the Laughter Weeping Peak. Buddha Sab Emperor's primordial spirit was lying on the bamboo mat on the bed of the abode. There was no one beside him to serve him. All the disciples who were serving him had been dismissed by him. As his primordial spirit, he naturally did not wear the strange mask that he used to wear in the past. He was a lean old man with protruding cheekbones. Am I going to die soon? Cough cough. Buddha Sab Emperor's primordial spirit grabbed a handkerchief beside him and pressed it against his mouth. When he took it away again, the handkerchief was already stained with golden blood. The golden blood was the blood essence of an immortal emperor. Even his blood essence was coughed out day and night. He was really reaching the end of his lifespan. That day, I really shouldn't have participated in the pursuit of that external cultivator. If I had left together with old man Lu Tua, I would probably have been able to escape this calamity. He really hid himself well. That old man is really smart. He is so smart that it makes people jealous, but it doesn't matter. Even if he dies, he will never die alone. He wants revenge. It was the master of the blood martial emperor who injured him to this extent. His life was going to end soon. The master of the blood martial emperor had already been captured. Under heavy custody, he could not kill the master of the blood martial emperor with his own hands. However, he could still take revenge on the many subordinates of the master of the blood martial emperor. Rumor has it that after the master of the blood martial emperor was killed, the blood martial arena under Lioli City was disbanded. The low-level cultivators who did not have a deep relationship with the arena went their separate ways. As for the subordinates of the arena who directly obeyed the master of the blood martial emperor, they fled Lioli City to unknown places. Not a single one of the trusted subordinates of the blood martial emperor can escape. Anyway, he won't be able to live for long. No matter what, he must drag a few more people down with him before he dies. Wait a little more, wait a little more. As long as he slightly stabilized his primordial spirit's injuries, he would personally pursue and kill the subordinates of the blood martial emperor. To vent the hatred in his heart. Cough cough. Another series of coughs. All of a sudden, the coughing Buddha Sab Emperor's eyes trembled. He seemed to have sensed a trace of abnormality in the main peak's formation. The primordial spirit's small face suddenly turned around. What he saw made his heart beat wildly, and he could not control himself. Inside the abode, beside the bed, a ghost-faced silver-haired cultivator appeared out of nowhere. In the moonless night, he looked like a ghost. You are. The Buddha Sab Emperor looked at the newcomer in horror. He did not expect to encounter such a terrifying existence before his lifespan ended. Even though he was seriously injured and lying on the bed, he had heard a lot about how terrifying the ghost-faced cultivator was. That was a terrifying existence that killed 2 thearchs in a row. With his current star life fire, He would definitely die if he were to face such an existence. Just as he was about to call for his disciples to save him, Buddha Sab suddenly felt the sky and earth spinning. Then, his entire being was locked in a void. If he still had his cultivation base, he would certainly not be dragged into the void of the palm position by an immortal venerable. However, the current him was completely powerless to resist such power. His cries for help couldn't reach his disciple through the void of the palm realm. Even if he wanted to tear open the void of this place and escape, he could not do it. This is the void of the palm position. Besides, this void of the palm position looks very familiar. It's actually something that Gu Ling obtained by chance in the past. Others might not know about this item, but I who found it at the same time as him knows it very well. Buddha Sab's primordial spirit's small face was filled with fear. He was trying to guess the identity of the ghost-faced cultivator who was standing in the void not far away. Could it be? Could it be? The ghost-faced cultivator who killed 2 thearchs in a row was actually Old Man Gu Ling? Could it be that Gu Ling also hid his identity as deeply as Lu Tuo? He pretended to be severely injured by the master of the Blood Martial Emperor, but in reality, he deceived everyone and turned into a ghost-faced cultivator to slaughter the world. You guessed it wrong. I am not Gu Ling, Ning Fan said emotionlessly while playing with the stone man's eye in his hand. This stone man's eye was the spoils of war he obtained from killing Gu Ling. It contained a half-destroyed void of the palm position. The half-destroyed void of the palm position was not very useful against a 7th and 8th tribulation immortal emperor. However, it was still somewhat useful against a 6th tribulation immortal emperor. It was even more convenient against a half-dead 6th tribulation immortal emperor, as he could capture them into the void of the palm position silently. That was why Ning Fan used it to invade the Smile-Crying Peak. Unfortunately, Ning Fan had destroyed the power of the Tao law of the palm position when he was dealing with Gu Ling. Because of that, the firmness of the void of the palm position was not as good as it used to be. It could not transform into various abilities to attack the enemy like how Gu Ling used it. Otherwise, the stone man's eye would not only be slightly useful against an immortal emperor realm being. Impossible! You're not Gu Ling. How can you have this stone man's eye? Could it be that Gu Ling has already been? Buddha Sab's body shivered as he guessed the truth. Before I killed Gu Ling, I gave him 2 choices. He could either become my Joss Flame slave or die. If it's you, you would probably choose death too. Ning Fan sighed. Nonsense. Even if I die, I will never become someone's slave. You can stop dreaming. Even though Buddha Sab was afraid, he still spoke in a tough tone. That's a good answer. If it wasn't because you chased after me in the past and you didn't want to take revenge against Shui Wu's subordinates, I might forgive you because of your answer. Unfortunately, you and I are destined to be enemies. Today, I shall return the karma of that day. Ning Fan let out a chi sound and turned into a demonic red ray, rushing towards the Buddha Sab Emperor. Wait, I don't remember chasing after an existence like you at all. This must be a misunderstanding. Can you allow me to explain? Even though the Buddha Sab Emperor said that, his eyes narrowed and an evil thought rose in his mind. He secretly took out an extremely concealed innate magic treasure, trying to launch a sneak attack on Ning Fan. Unfortunately, when the sneak attack landed on Ning Fan's body, it only caused some ripples of magic power. It did not harm Ning Fan's physical body at all. Ning Fan's physical body was too strong. The cultivation level that Buddha Sab could display was too weak. It was only equivalent to an ordinary 5th tribulation immortal king. That sneak attack failed and revealed its true form. It was a low-grade innate prayer bead that was covered with runes of Tao laws. He actually used his physical body to take on the sacred ancestors' Garuda demon's subduing bead. Buddha Sab Emperor was incomparably shocked. Then, a 7-colored light flashed in front of his eyes and he was sent flying by the tree of 7 wonders. He coughed out blood all the way as he retreated. 1 hour later, Ning Fan left the Smile-Crying Peak with the resources of an entire immortal emperor force and tens of thousands of powerful Joss Flame slaves. His next destination was the capital Heaven Peak. Tonight he came to the middle state to settle his karma. Naturally, he would not let any of the 4 immortal emperors of the Middle State who chased after him in the past go free. Of course, before killing them, he would still give the Heaven Emperor 2 choices. However, based on Ning Fan's guess, the Heaven Emperor should be the same as Gu Ling and Buddha Sob. He would not give in. It seems very difficult to make an immortal emperor bend his knees and become a slave. Ning Fan's figure gradually became invisible. The formation at the border of the capital Heaven Peak flickered slightly and then returned to normal. At the same time, the Heaven Emperor, who was recuperating with his eyes closed, opened his eyes in horror. His silver hair fluttered in the night sky behind him. The karma of the past will be the effect today. You have 2 choices. Which one do you choose? The moment the voice resounded, the Heaven Emperor's vision turned black. He was directly dragged into the void of the stone man's eye. His heart was beating wildly. Ghost Face Cultivator. Chapter 1078. As soon as his voice fell, Emperor Tiandu felt the world spinning around him. He was forcefully sucked into the void space by Ning Fan's stone eyes. Cause of the past, effect of the present. You have 2 choices. Become my incense slave or die. In the void space, Ning Fan was like an absolute monarch, looking down at Tiandu from above. Unlike Gu Ling, Bai Hua and Defo Qi, Emperor Tiandu's physical body was not destroyed by the master of the blood martial sect. Instead, his foundation was damaged. His cultivation base fell from the immortal emperor realm and he became a genuine immortal king. It seemed that he was luckier than the other great emperors of the central state because he managed to keep his physical body. However, it was even more unfortunate. It was almost 10 times harder for him to cultivate back to the immortal emperor realm. Emperor Tiandu's expression was uncertain. His thoughts were running wild because of the familiar void space. But when he heard Ning Fan's words, he gradually calmed down. Then he looked at Ning Fan with a mocking smile. I, Tiandu, have been running wild for my entire life. I can be killed but not humiliated. I will never be a slave. Of course, if it's possible, I don't want to die either. Fellow Taoist, can you let me live? As long as you don't cross my bottom line, even if you want to take away all my life's accumulation or give me some other orders, it's still negotiable. Sure enough, it was very difficult to recruit an immortal emperor as a slave. Ning Fan remained silent for a while. Then he suddenly asked, "If I let you go, will you still hate the master of the blood martial sect who destroyed your physical body and injured your primordial spirit?" Tiandu frowned slightly, but he disdained to lie. "Of course I hate her." "Will you take revenge?" "Yes. Since that's the case, I can't let you go. I owe the master of the blood martial sect a life-saving grace. I must eliminate the enemies who hate her. Fellow Taoist Tiandu, you have a backbone. Just like Gu Ling and Defo Qi, I admire you. Even though I won't let you go just because of this, I can let you die knowing the reason behind your death." Ning Fan wiped his palm and removed the ghost face. When Tiandu saw Ning Fan's face, he was shocked and lost his voice. "And Ning Fan, it's actually you, a little external cultivator. Impossible. How can the infamous ghost face cultivator be a junior like you?" "What did you just say? I'm the same as Gu Ling and Defo Qi? Could it be? After taking off the ghost mask, the terrifying baleful qi that Ning Fan released after killing the 2 emperors in one night dyed the dark void space around his palm red. At the same time, the cries of countless ghosts resounded throughout heaven and earth, sending chills down people's spines. It was as if the originally empty void had instantly turned into a living hell. The billions of ghost shadows in hell were all looking at Ning Fan with resentment. They were roaring and crying. Their ferocious aura was monstrous. "10,000 ghosts are here. Above the true immortal realm, there are very few who can form the blood flame phenomenon with their baleful aura. Those who can form the 10,000 ghosts phenomenon must be strong devils who have killed immortal emperors before. Moreover, they can't just kill 1 or 2 people, but many more." Even the heavens felt a chill. He no longer doubted the authenticity of Ning Fan's words. This brat was most likely not lying. After killing Ancestor He and Ancestor Meng at San Yen, he came to Dabei and quietly killed Gu Ling and Defo Qi. If it weren't for the fact that he already had 4 immortal emperor lives in his hands, it would have been impossible for the phenomenon of 10,000 ghosts to appear. How did you escape the Radiant Buddha's pursuit, fellow Taoist? I can't tell you that. Rumor has it that after you killed Ancestor He of Mu Yen, you went to the Void Flame Corpse Bone Mountain. Could it be that fellow Taoist has already obtained the inheritance of the 3rd step of the Sword Tao on the Corpse Bone Mountain? Otherwise, how could you become so strong in such a short time? I can't tell you that. In that case, fellow Taoist has already guessed that I wanted to scheme against you in order to comprehend the Sword Tao on the Corpse Bone Mountain, right? Yes. If I knew that fellow Taoist is so strong, I definitely wouldn't have plotted against you and tried to kill you. Now, it's too late for regrets. It's too late. It's too late now. Tian Du smiled bitterly, as if he was regretting it. However, that bitter smile suddenly turned into a hint of viciousness. Then, the void behind Ning Fan suddenly emerged from 3 golden shadows with the chi of quasi-emperors. They charged at Ning Fan with their iron fists. Ning Fan's eyes were filled with mockery. With his wisdom, how could he not see through the series of words that Tian Du had said to him in order to launch a sneak attack? Regret? Even though he had cultivated the communication of all living things, he did not sense the slightest bit of regret from Tian Du's heart. There was only a vicious scheme. Ning Fan activated the defense of the god-slaying giant at the right time, blocking the attack of the 3 golden shadows behind him. He was unharmed. When the 3 golden shadows missed their attack, they once again hid in the void, making it difficult to locate them. However, Ning Fan still managed to identify the chi of the 3 golden shadows during that hasty attack. Interesting, these 3 golden shadows were pill devils that were created using a special secret technique. Since they were able to attain the cultivation base of a quasi-emperor, it was enough to show how high the grade of their pills were. Pill devils were too rare. Even in the sacred place of pill refinement, the Great Bei Clan, it was Ning Fan's first time encountering a pill devil. It seemed like these 3 quasi-emperor pill devils were one of Tian Du's trump cards. In that case, Black Devil, He Xiaolian, Ke Gu, the 3 of you, go and play with these 3 quasi-emperor pill devils. Ning Fan waved his hand and released the Tai Su lightning diagram. An ancestral lightning sparrow flew out from the diagram. It had a 5th grade Emperor grade Dao soul which was comparable to a 5th Tribulation Immortal King. Then he released a tiny person with a lotus root. That tiny person expanded in the wind and turned into a little girl with red lips and white teeth. It was a quasi-emperor puppet. Then, a black shadow flew out from its body and turned into a young girl with no hair. She had cat ears and a black dress. She was the kitten of the 9 raccoons, the Black Devil. He Xiaolian was the name given to the quasi-emperor puppet by the Black Devil. Such a feminine name made Ning Fan speechless. One should know that when he first created this puppet, he followed the template of the burly man. Perhaps it was because the puppet had been stored in the profound Yin world for a long time and was contaminated with the Yin Qi of many human cauldrons. The puppet actually began to change its appearance bit by bit. The puppet that was created using the roots of the golden lotus of creation did not have a gender in the beginning. After absorbing the Yin Qi of the profound Yin world, the puppet that looked like the burly man began to become feminine. Even though it still had the body of a bear, its appearance gradually turned into that of a beautiful little girl. It was like a big loli with a tiger's back and a bear's waist. Its appearance was extremely unharmonious. As it continued to absorb the Yin Qi, it finally transformed from its burly and stocky appearance into that of a petite girl. After absorbing a lot of Yin Qi, it finally had a gender. Gender, female. Name, none. Originally, it did not have a name. However, when the Black Devil saw this puppet, he directly subdued it as his little sister like a queen and gave it the name of He Xiaolian. There was no need for gossip. At this moment, Ning Fan released 3 powerful subordinates in succession. The 3 of them immediately engaged in a battle with the 3 quasi-emperor pill devils who were hiding in the void space. Among the 3 subordinates, The Black Devil, who had already entered adulthood, was the strongest and had the most techniques. She actually had the upper hand against the quasi-emperors who were at the same level as her. When she used a low-grade innate 9 leopard sacrificial treasure, the Flame Moon Ancient Realm, her combat strength was almost on par with some weak immortal emperors. Very soon, she opened many bloody holes on her opponents' bodies. He Xiaoyan was the second strongest. She could only fight the quasi-emperors to a draw. Of course, she still had a slight advantage. When she used an innate sacrificial treasure of an unknown race, she was also able to suppress the quasi-emperors. It was an innate sacrificial treasure that looked like an ancient bell. Ning Fan used his telepathy to read its true name, the Eastern Sea Chimes. Keigu was the weakest. After all, his cultivation base was only equivalent to an ordinary 5th Tribulation Immortal King. If his opponents were quasi-emperors, it would be a little difficult for him. Fortunately, he had been in charge of the heavenly Tao for many years. His application of the power of Tao laws was the purest. His comprehension and practical application were even higher than some quasi-emperors. Even though he was slightly at a disadvantage, he was still able to fight the quasi-emperors to a draw. When Keigu also used an innate sacrificial treasure that Ning Fan gave him, he directly fought the quasi-emperors to a draw. The innate sacrificial treasure that Keigu used happened to be an item from the Lightning Sparrow race. Its true name was the Burning Lightning Incense Cauldron. Ever since it became Ning Fan's slave, Ancient Sparrow had always been a little depressed. However, when Ning Fan rewarded it with the sacrificial treasure of the ancestral Lightning Sparrow, it felt for the first time that it had a bright future by being Ning Fan's slave. If he followed Ning Fan and cultivated until the end, he might be able to cultivate to the immortal emperor realm with this sacrificial treasure of his race one day. On that day, Ning Fan obtained a total of 4 innate sacrificial treasures from the Mountain of Corpses. After distributing them to everyone including Long Sanchue, he did not keep them for himself. He did not lack innate magic treasures. Along the way, he had killed more and more innate magic treasures. Gradually, he set his sights on mid-grade innate magic treasures. For someone like him who had a lot of treasures, just some random rewards could increase the strength of his subordinates. Their combat power was off the charts. Without a doubt, the effects of these treasures would be even greater. Your pill devil seems to be inferior to my subordinate, Ning Fan said with an expressionless face. Humph. Since my subordinate is inferior to you, let's see how my strength compares to yours. You are good at defense and so am I. Let's see which is stronger between my Black Mountain Bear ancestors Kasaya and your golden body. Tiandu raised his hand and summoned a wisp of black light. 10,000 wisps of black golden chi fell from the sky, turning into a thin black Kasaya that was as thin as a cicada's wings and draped itself over his body. Then, he activated his divine ability and actually turned into a 100 zhang tall black bear wearing the Kasaya. It was the immemorial true body that was not in human form. Ning Fan did not expect that Tiandu, who was severely injured and whose cultivation base had dropped, could still use the immemorial true body. As a result, he was much more difficult to deal with compared to Ancestor Meng, Gu Ling and Fo Qi. After activating the immemorial true body, Tiandu, who was at the peak of the Immortal King realm, could almost be on par with some weak 6th Tribulation Immortal Emperors. Of course, even if he activates the immemorial true body, he would not be as difficult to deal with as Ancestor Meng's immemorial true body. Your injuries are too severe. I'm afraid you won't be able to activate this immemorial true body for long. The god-slaying giant showed a ruthless expression. With a wave of his hand, a series of magic treasures including the sea-defying sword, the wonderful tree of 7 treasures and the 5 poison banner were thrown at Tiandu. He did not activate the might of the 3 waters of the one-world drowning bottle. That kind of attack could certainly end the battle in an instant, but the backlash was too great. Ning Fan did not plan to enter seclusion to heal his injuries for the time being. Since that's the case, I will rely on the advantage of the number of innate magic treasures and the invincible god-slaying shield to exhaust the severely injured Tiandu. 2 hours later, Ning Fan ended the battle. He used Tiandu's formation compass to seal off the entire Tiandu peak. Then he secretly captured a large number of disciples of Tiandu and made them his slaves. As for those who did not have deep karma with Tiandu, he let them go. Ning Fan emptied the vault of the immortal emperors in Tiandu Peak. He also took away Tiandu's Black Mountain Bear ancestors' Kasaya and a cauldron of 260 drops of 10,000 spirit blood. Compared to the battle of Gu Ling and Buddha Tears, this battle took slightly longer because Tiandu had activated his immemorial true body. Unfortunately, Tiandu, who was severely injured and whose cultivation base had dropped, was far less powerful than Ancestor Meng, who was at his peak. He was not Ning Fan's match after all. The sky was slowly turning bright. The night was about to end. Ning Fan left Tiandu Peak and came to Baihua Peak. He was no longer the submissive external cultivator he used to be. He was a ferocious tiger that was released from Xinghuan's prison. He was an evil spirit that came to this place to seek karma. Baihua is the empress, but she is severely injured and on the verge of death. How will she fight me in this state? As soon as Ning Fan activated the purple light, he disrupted the formation power of this place and quietly sneaked into the main peak of Baihua Peak. Baihua, who was trying her best to suppress her injuries in her bedroom, was startled. Her primordial spirit's face was filled with fear. She looked at the figure who slowly walked out from behind the screen. Then she felt her world spinning and she was directly trapped in the void space where the stone giant's eye was. A burst of purple light swept across her face. Her primordial spirit immediately felt numb. 70% of her remaining strength was actually sealed by that purple light. Originally, she was only equivalent to a 5th Tribulation Immortal King because of her severe injuries. Now, after sealing her cultivation base, she was only equivalent to a 3rd Tribulation Immortal King. G-Ghost Mask Cultivator. What do you want to do to me? You can't just kill Bai Lu. Must you kill me? Bai Hua was so frightened that her soul almost left her body. When Bai Lu died, she already felt that she was going to face a great calamity. Sure enough, her calamity was related to the Ghost Mask Cultivator. When she heard that the Ghost Mask Cultivator had killed Bai Lu, she had a feeling that a great calamity was about to befall her. When she heard that the Ghost Mask Cultivator not only had the strength to kill a peak-stage immortal king, but also 2 immortal emperors, Bai Hua was so scared that she couldn't sleep at night. With her severely injured body, it was impossible for her to be that Ghost Mask Cultivator's opponent. She had a premonition that the Ghost Mask Cultivator would definitely come to kill her. She had to do something. Thus, she continuously reinforced the 100 Flowers Peak's main peak formation, using almost all the formation materials in the treasure vault. Thus, she asked her friends for help. However, even when she needed the South Sea's spring water for her severe injuries, no one helped her. Now, she might be killed by the Ghost Mask Cultivator. Who would want to get involved in this mess? No one responded to the 100 Flowers Emperor's request for help. Cultivation was a matter of whether a friend died or not. No one was willing to help the 100 Flowers Emperor block this karma. Thus, the 100 Flowers Emperor could only be on tenterhooks. Every day felt like a year. She was very careful and did not step out of the 100 Flowers Peak's formation. Unfortunately, when the night was about to end, that Ghost Mask Cultivator still managed to sneak in front of her and capture her into a void space. In just one encounter, he sealed all of her remaining cultivation base using a bewitching technique. This person's bewitching technique is really heaven-defying. Unless my cultivation base is higher than his, as a woman, I won't be affected by this level of bewitching technique at all. I won't be able to resist it if I'm severely injured. The 100 Flowers Emperor did not plan to resist Ning Fan at all. She gritted her teeth and didn't do anything. Instead, she turned into a flying flower and flew out of the void. Even though the power of the Tao laws of this void space had been shattered by Ning Fan, at least Tiandu and the others who were also severely injured would not be able to escape. The 100 Flowers Emperor, on the other hand, managed to escape under the precondition that she was deeply affected by the bewitching technique. She seemed to be very good at escaping. No wonder she could still escape from being besieged by several Three Flames immortal emperors in the past. Fortunately, the Hundred Flowers Emperor was the last great emperor of the Central State. Even if she escaped from the void space and caused a huge commotion, it would not be a problem. Ning Fan chased after her in a flash. At this very moment, countless main peaks and auxiliary peaks of the Hundred Flowers Peak were brightly lit. Obviously, they were all awakened by the Hundred Flowers Emperor. Countless experts gathered at the main peak of the Hundred Flowers Peak, but the Hundred Flowers Emperor herself was nowhere to be seen. With a thought in Ning Fan's mind, an endless drizzle suddenly spread from the main peak of the Hundred Flowers Peak to an extremely far distance. In an instant, he found the direction where the Hundred Flowers Emperor had escaped. What a cowardly Hundred Flowers Emperor! She actually abandoned the Hundred Flowers Peak and ran for her life alone. She is an immortal emperor in vain. Ning Fan did not chase after her immediately. Instead, he soared into the sky and forcefully activated the secret character of Force to take over the grand formation at the border of the Hundred Flowers Peak. If the Hundred Flowers Emperor was not in charge of this formation, Ning Fan's spirit sense was strong enough to instantly seize control of such a grand formation. Of course, this action would cause a huge commotion. It would also consume a lot of spirit sense. That was why he did not do this before. Now, however, he no longer cared about that. After sealing all the cultivators of the Hundred Flowers Peak with the formation and leaving, Ning Fan removed his ghost mask, revealing his true appearance and suppressing his baleful qi. No one could see that he was the ghost mask cultivator. When the few remaining peak lords of the Hundred Flowers Peak brought their people to this place, what they saw was Ning Fan, who had a faint smile on his face. "Everyone, how have you been?" All of them were shocked. Obviously, they did not expect that the one who caused trouble in the Hundred Flowers Peak tonight would be Ning Fan. It's that external cultivator. How did he sneak into the main peak without anyone noticing? Where did Venerable go? He doesn't seem to be here. Damn it. Venerable was seriously injured and on the verge of death. Could it be that this external cultivator took advantage of the situation and killed him? Of course not. Venerable is an immortal emperor. In fact, this external cultivator can be killed by Venerable Immortal Emperor. Besides, Venerable Immortal Emperor's life plate is still intact. Humph. Let's not care about other things first. This external cultivator is the sinner who destroyed Xing Huan. Our Hundred Flowers Peak is already in a precarious situation. If we can capture this cultivator, it will certainly be a great contribution. We can even receive the Radiant Buddha's commendation. But we have met this young man before. How can we bear to, humph? Those who don't want this contribution, just step back. Those who want to contribute, follow me and kill this young man. Amidst the commotion, most of the cultivators of the Hundred Flowers Peak chose to attack Ning Fan. Only a few people did not do so. Those people basically came from the 6th Auxiliary Peak. They were the subordinates of the Peak Lord, Venerable Ming Feng. Ming Feng looked at Ning Fan, who was about to be besieged, with a complicated expression and slowly closed his eyes. When Ning Fan went up the Hundred Flowers Peak that day, he was ordered to stop him. After a fight, he was defeated. He should have died, but Ning Fan spared his life. He owed Ning Fan a life. Even if they were enemies now, he could not join in the attack. He could only suppress the cultivators under his command and not let them join in the attack. Ning Fan's lips curled into a smile. It seemed like not all cultivators of the Hundred Flowers Peak did not care about their old friendship. Since that was the case, he would only capture those who wanted to use him to contribute. Qi Ning Fan's body swayed and turned into a red ray, disappearing without a trace. Almost at the same time, one after another, the experts of the Hundred Flowers Peak were attacked by the red ray and fell to the ground. Then, Ning Fan skillfully planted restrictions on them and threw them into the incense flame world. He did not waste time talking nonsense with them. In just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, tens of thousands of cultivators who participated in the attack were all captured by Ning Fan. Ming Feng, Immortal Venerable, and countless cultivators of the 6th Auxiliary Peak stared at the scene in front of them in astonishment. They could not believe that Ning Fan, who had mediocre combat power a few months ago, would become so strong after a few months. In just the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, he captured tens of thousands of cultivators of the 100 Flowers Peak alive. Among those who were captured, there were even a few immortal venerables and immortal kings. One should know that capturing alive was more difficult than killing. One should know that, did fellow Taoist capture those people to be your incense flame slaves? Ming Feng Immortal Venerable's heart was filled with shock. His scalp went numb as he guessed. Yes. Ning Fan smiled. Does fellow Taoist also plan to capture us? Ming Feng smiled bitterly. With the strength that Ning Fan displayed, even if all the cultivators of the 6th Auxiliary Peak rushed at him, they would be killed by him in just a few moves at most. They were not his match at all. If you treat me as an old friend, I have no reason to attack you. You're not here to destroy the entire 100 Flowers Peak? You're not here to seek revenge against Lord Venerable? I'm just here to settle the karma. Don't worry. I won't do anything to you. However, I will erase your memories of what happened tonight. I don't want anyone to know that I'm the Ghost Mask Cultivator. Ning Fan wiped his face and the silver ghost mask emerged. Under the night sky and the mountain breeze, his silver hair fluttered in the wind. Ming Feng and the others were stunned. They did not expect that Ning Fan was actually the infamous Ghost Mask Cultivator. They were so shocked that they could not utter a single word. However, after that, everyone's sea of consciousness was invaded by Ning Fan's indestructible spirit sense. With the reverse spirit technique, some of their memories were erased. Of course, because it was the reverse spirit technique, the damage to their sea of consciousness was minimal. One by one, they fainted on the ground. Forget it. After all, we're just friends. Now that the night is over, let's settle the karma. Ning Fan's body swayed and turned into a red ray of light, disappearing into the treasure vaults of the 100 Flowers Peak. Not long after that, he walked out of the treasure vaults. No one knew what he did inside. Then, he summoned the Black Immortal Cloud and chased after the 100 Flowers Emperor at a moderate pace. He was not worried that he could not catch up to the 100 Flowers Emperor. The 100 Flowers Emperor's speed might be one of the best among the 5 emperors of the Central State. However, compared to the Death Emperor and the Radiant Buddha, she was not on the same level at all. As for Ning Fan, he could even shake off the Death Emperor's pursuit with the Black Immortal Cloud. Even if the 100 Flowers Emperor had already escaped for some time, it was not a big deal. After the time it takes for 2 incense sticks to burn. In the bright sky in the east, the 100 Flowers Emperor kept consuming her primordial spirit and blood essence to increase her speed to the maximum. She was running desperately in the direction of the Glaze City in the Central State. She was not Ning Fan's match. She did not have the strength to resist at all. She had already confirmed this point. If she wanted to escape from Ning Fan's pursuit, she could only escape to a certain place. Only by escaping to the Glaze City could she have a chance of survival. Apart from that, even if she escaped to the Sacred Mountain, she was not confident that she would not be killed by Ning Fan. After all, the Sacred Mountain was equivalent to the Three Flames Continent, and the Three Flames Continent was a place where Ning Fan could come and go as he pleased. For many years, I have been searching for an answer. That answer is in the Glaze City. Perhaps I am not real but an illusion. If this is fake, then so be it. But if this is real, I can vaguely sense that the master who created me is in this place. To be able to create me with an illusion, that master must be unimaginably strong. I am going to find her. She will certainly be able to protect me from the pursuit of the Ghost Mask Cultivators. Unfortunately, the 100 Flowers Emperor did not have the chance to escape to the Glaze City. In the bright sky in front of her, a white-robed figure suddenly appeared in a strange manner. It was as if he had torn apart heaven and earth. In just an instant he arrived. That person's white robes fluttered in the wind. His silver hair fluttered in the wind. Under the ghost mask, his bearing was peerless. He stood in the sky and gently drew a line in front of him, cutting off the dome of heaven and stopping her from advancing. Then he raised his finger and directly pinned her extremely weak primordial spirit in the sky. Then hundreds and thousands of purple rays were released, easily binding her primordial spirit into a dumpling. Then he directly entered the profound Een world together with her primordial spirit. After that, he removed the ghost mask and revealed his true appearance. It's you. External cultivator Ning Fan. Why is it you? The beautiful face of the 100 Flowers Emperor's primordial spirit was a little distorted due to excessive fear. Be quiet. Don't be afraid. Before I figure out the secrets of your body, I don't plan to kill you. How should I put it? It's extremely inappropriate to use the word kill to describe an object that doesn't exist in the first place. I just came to find you to settle the karma. Ning Fan said with an expressionless face. Karma? What karma? Is it because I betrayed our alliance in the Glaze City and hunted you down? Or is it because I used Shi Xinghan Lu to plot against you? Or is it because I betrayed my old friend and attacked your little lover in the Glaze City? Or is it because of my hatred towards the master of the blood martial sect that you want to kill me? The 100 Flowers Emperor screamed crazily. Suddenly, she thought of something and suppressed the fear in her heart. She turned to Ning Fan and revealed a charming smile. I know the location of the sacrificial artifact you want. It's somewhere in the Void Flame. Let me go and I will bring you to find it. Didn't you hear that I have already been to the Void Flame Corpse Bone Mountain? It seems like you only know that the sacrificial artifact is in the Void Flame, but you don't know its exact location. Even if I got the information from you that day, I still have to rely on my own strength to find it. Could it be that you have already found the sacrificial artifact? The 100 Flowers Emperor was startled. Inwardly, she thought that this bargaining chip was useless. She could only look for another bargaining chip. Her charming smile became even more enchanting as she spoke. How about this? I am a dignified immortal emperor. How about I let you pluck half of my cultivation base? As long as you are willing to let me go, I will let you do whatever you want. If half is not enough, we can negotiate. 60%. 60% is fine. I should have said it already. Be quiet and don't talk nonsense with me. Pluck you? I'm not interested in that. Do you dislike the fact that I have lost my primordial Een? It turns out that you are also such a superficial person. You should know that even though I am not a virgin, my skills in bed are very good. I will certainly satisfy you. The 100 Flowers Emperor tried her best to seduce Ning Fan in order to protect herself. Of course, she could not tempt Ning Fan at all. Ning Fan did not care whether this woman was a virgin or not. If he could really pluck a female emperor and increase his cultivation base, he would have the courage to give it a try even if the other party was a pig demon. Didn't you see that one of my subordinates in 7 Apricot City had the courage to pluck a pig demon? As her master, perhaps, he did not lack such courage. However, this was not the reason why he was too lazy to pluck the 100 Flowers Emperor. At this moment, he was observing the primordial spirit of the 100 Flowers Emperor at a close distance. His eyes were filled with green light. Finally, he found some clues. Sure enough, the feeling that day was not wrong. The 100 Flowers Emperor was not a living person. She was a puppet created by illusion techniques. There was no such person in this world. This person was fake. I can't pluck an illusion puppet. I can't refine the 10,000 spirit blood using the illusion puppet. This person is useless. If I kill her, I can't even increase my baleful chi. Do you want to see my performance? Seeing that Ning Fan was unmoved, the 100 Flowers Emperor hid a trace of resentment in her eyes. She secretly activated some kind of bewitching technique and began her performance. Under the layers of purple light seals, the 100 Flowers Emperor could not display a trace of her cultivation base at all. She could not even self-detonate. However, as the heaven sealing technique had lost its effect, she could still move weakly. Her small hands slowly undid the little clothes on her primordial spirit. Then she spread her legs and began her extremely bewitching performance. Ning Fan's eyes suddenly turned cold. You want to kill me with your bewitching technique while I am careless, right? Unfortunately, you are still too inexperienced when it comes to bewitching techniques. Originally, I wanted to keep you for a few more days. It seems like there is no need for that anymore. How did you know? How is this possible? A miserable cry was heard. Ning Fan was too lazy to pay attention to the 100 Flowers Emperor who was still scheming before her death. He directly threw her primordial spirit into the spirit refining cauldron to refine pills. Unfortunately, not a single drop of 10,000 spirit blood appeared even after the 100 Flowers Emperor was refined to death. Instead, there was a ray of light in the shape of a wasp stinger that shot out from the ashes of the 100 Flowers Emperor's primordial spirit. Then, it disappeared into the sky. Lu Tuo once said that under Paragon 10 Wasp's calculations, many of the living beings in the Great Bay tribe were merely illusions. They seemed to possess cultivation, but in reality, they couldn't even be considered as humans. From the looks of it, there is a certain degree of credibility in this. When I entered the treasure vault of the 100 Flowers Emperor, I went to investigate the blood wasps in the vault. Those blood wasps were also illusions. After they died, they also disappeared into the world like a wasp stinger. Even some of the incense slaves that I captured in the incense flame world were just illusions and not real people. The people who used illusions don't only exist in the 100 Flowers Peak. They also exist in the 3 Flames and in every Great Bay grassland. Supreme 10 Bees is a dignified quasi-saint. He spent so much effort to create illusions. What is his motive? I won't believe it if he doesn't have a scheme. Ning Fan remained silent for a while. Then, he flipped his hand and took out the Tu Huang's left eye. In the past, Emperor Tu made a deal with him and entered the yellow spring of the 9 underworlds to find the answer. What Emperor Tu wanted to find was engraved in his left eye. When he was in seclusion in the Tower of Time, he would often take out Emperor Tu's left eye and carefully observe his past. He deeply understood this woman's life of cultivation experience. He saw the glorious history of how this woman rose from a lowly position to become the master of the blood martial sect step by step. There was no problem with Emperor Tu's life experience. The problem was the period of time before Emperor Tu was born. The water of the well of vexation reflected Emperor Tu's true past. In that period of time, there was the scene when his mother gave birth to him before he was born. On the day Emperor Tu was born, there was a woman who looked like the sword ancestor who was holding an umbrella. She turned into a midwife using illusions and helped Emperor Tu's mother give birth. Ning Fan's spirit sense went into Emperor Tu's left eye. He sighed and watched the past again. When he closed his eyes, the scene flowed into his mind. It was the day Emperor Tu was born. In an inconspicuous small tent in an inconspicuous grassland in the central state, there were sounds of crying. Inside the tent, a beautiful woman who had just given birth was crying while hugging the body of her daughter who died prematurely. She was the mother of the baby girl. A few women who looked like sisters-in-law and were helping in the tent also had sorrowful expressions. It was a baby girl who was less than a month old. Her body was smaller than a normal baby. Her little face was swollen and purple. She had suffocated to death in the womb. Outside the tent was a middle-aged man with a dark face. He lowered his head and smoked a pipe. He was the father of the baby girl. He did not cry with the women, but his mood was also gloomy. There was only one person who did not cry. Instead, she was smiling. She was smiling as she watched the joys and sorrows of the world. She was a midwife. She was the midwife transformed by Supremacy 10 Bs. When the peanuts die, all living beings suffer. When the peanuts die, the enlightened ones will be saved. Do you all need me to save you? As soon as the midwife spoke, her figure suddenly appeared. She no longer looked like an old woman. Instead, she turned into a bodhisattva who shone brightly. The bodhisattva she turned into was extremely beautiful. However, she looked completely different from the sword ancestor who was holding an umbrella. Bodhisattva. Bodhisattva has appeared. Bodhisattva who saves the suffering and saves the suffering, please save my child. As long as you are willing to save her, I am willing to give up anything. I can exchange my life for her. It was the scene of the mother of the baby girl kneeling and kowtowing. I have 400 million Dharma manifestations. This is one of them. I am the manifestation of saving the suffering and saving the suffering. All living beings have suffering, I will save them. This is a reward for the devout believers of the Buddhist sect. I have the wish to save all living beings. Are you all willing to follow me? I want to save all suffering in the world. Are you all willing to follow me? As long as I am here, I will not let anyone die in front of me. Are you all willing to follow me? Supremacy 10Bs chanted with a smile. He took the baby girl's body. With a gentle smile, he crushed the baby girl's body with his slender fingers. Under the horrified gazes of the surrounding people, Supremacy 10Bs used the power of illusion to create a new baby girl. She looked very similar to the baby girl from before. However, she was not a living person. She was just an illusion puppet. That puppet was the Emperor Slayer. Go to sleep. When you wake up, you will forget about your daughter's premature death. This baby girl will be your new daughter. Why would you give your daughter such a name? Ji Qingling? 10 wasps chuckled as he activated his illusion technique, causing the surrounding cultivators to fall to the ground one by one. Ning Fan frowned. The Butcher Emperor was not a real person. He was just an illusion puppet of Supreme 10 Wasps. He did not have a real life. Was the extraordinary woman who had rebuked Debay for countless years a fake? That woman whose every frown and every smile gave him an indescribable feeling, was she fake? That woman who sacrificed herself to save him, was it all a lie? Saving the poor and helping the needy? What a good saving and helping the needy. It should not be difficult for a demi-saint to save a mortal baby girl who had just died, right? What kind of rescue was this? Why didn't he just save the baby girl? Why was there a need to destroy the baby girl's body and make a new baby girl? Was it because he was afraid of karma? Demi-saints were usually afraid of karma. If he changed the fate of a baby girl whom he did not know, he would be tainted by the karma of the mortal world. However, if he did not change the life of the dead baby girl, he could avoid the karma by just creating an illusion puppet. Was it because of this? Or perhaps, Supreme 10 Wasps did it on purpose and had other plans. Even the premature death of the baby girl was caused by his schemes. Was it to achieve some kind of unspeakable goal? Therefore, he had to sacrifice an innocent baby girl. Sure enough, he did not like Debay. He did not like this place that was full of schemes. Even if the Emperor Slayer is just a fake illusion, I will still save him. Even if the process of saving him is one of the many schemes of Supreme 10 Wasps, I will still save him. Whether it's real or fake, these things are not important. So what if it's a fake illusion puppet? It's much better than those hypocrites. What is fake? Ning Fan suddenly raised his head. 2 rays of green divine light shot out from his eyes, as if they could see through all the illusions in the world. What is real? The green light became brighter and brighter, almost surpassing the range of the 2nd level of the celestial being realm and approaching the 3rd level. The more Ning Fan cultivated, the more he could not see through what was real. The more he comprehended reincarnation, the more he could not understand what reincarnation was. Then, don't see through it. Then, don't understand. Then, don't awaken. Then, don't understand. I only follow my Tao. I only seek my truth. I only understand my will. I only sink into my oblivion. What is Tao? The divine light in Ning Fan's eyes grew brighter, as if he wanted to penetrate the entire profound Yin world. At this moment, he asked himself the 3rd question in his heart. This question was one of the questions that had puzzled him all the way until today. He gradually understood it but gradually became confused. This question was because he was not willing to acquiesce to all the definitions of Tao in the world. It was a kind of exploration of his own inner thoughts. At this moment, because of the incident of the Emperor Slayer, Ning Fan's Tao heart had actually improved a little. Along with it, he could vaguely see the path to the 3rd level of the celestial being realm. However, he was confused and could not really see through it. When he looked at it carefully, it seemed like the path ahead was already a dead end. There was no path ahead. He could not see the path to the 3rd level of the celestial being realm. Then, is the path behind me? The first level of the celestial being realm is the comprehension of a cultivator's lifetime of cultivation. The second level of the celestial being realm is the condensation of a cultivator's lifelong pursuit of Tao without any regrets. In that case, is the third level of the celestial being realm turning back? Turning back? How should I turn back? Should I go back the way I came? Or should I deny all the previous paths? Ning Fan suddenly coughed out a mouthful of blood and withdrew from the strange state. Because of the incident of the Emperor Slayer, he actually had a trace of understanding about the cultivation of the third level of the celestial being realm. However, because this trace of understanding was far beyond his current cultivation base, he could only devour himself if he forced himself to look and think about it. He could not think deeply about it. The second level of the celestial being realm is rare in this world. What kind of mysterious realm is the third level of the celestial being realm? Throughout my journey, I have used my celestial being Dharma eyes to see through the schemes of my enemies countless times and comprehended the mysterious techniques of the world. If I can go one step further on the path of the celestial being realm, I will be able to reach the peak of the oneness of heaven and man. Rumor has it that the third level of the celestial being realm allows me to see the secrets of reincarnation in the past and present and see the past and future. It is indeed a taboo power. It isn't something that I can easily touch with. Ning Fan wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth and consumed a pill to regulate his breathing. After a long time, his injuries were finally healed. He kept the Emperor Slayer's left eye and did not look at it again. He hesitated. After rescuing Empress 2, should I let the Emperor Slayer see the past in his left eye? The Emperor Slayer should have noticed my identity as an illusory figure, right? Indeed, I should let her confirm this matter? Little butterfly, I won't abandon you. I'm sorry. I said something that even I don't understand. I don't know anything about butterflies at all. Next, you don't have to do anything. It's enough for me to settle this matter. I'm very angry. A mere seventh tribulation immortal emperor actually dared to scheme against my people and destroy Xinghuan, huh? Using the entire force of the Great Bei clan to hunt him down, huh? What a senseless scheme. It's too late. It's all too late. This time, it doesn't matter even if I break my promise. Even if the heavens and earth are turned upside down, I won't tolerate it anymore. No one can stop me from killing people. No one can hurt my little butterfly. Why does the Emperor Slayer always say such strange things? What are you going to do after I leave? I, Xinghuan, was destroyed for no reason and became a sinner for no reason. Is it really okay for you to help a sinner and stand against the Great Bei clan? Don't worry. The 5 supreme beings don't care about the affairs of the world. The strongest experts in this world are only the Death Emperor and the Radiant Buddha. Your crime will only attract the Radiant Buddha's attention at most. That old Baldy alone won't be able to do anything to me. But your injuries, and your left eye, stop being so long-winded. Leave now. I suddenly feel a little annoyed with you. I don't want to see you again. Why does her words always make me feel inexplicably sad? Ever since I started dreaming about the origin world, I would often talk nonsense. Sometimes, I would suddenly feel an indescribable sadness. For no reason, my heart would feel like dead ashes. For no reason, I would shed tears for no reason. For no reason, I would miss a little fellow whose identity I don't know. In fact, I have already mentally prepared myself for many things. My existence is very likely to be caused by someone's illusion technique. I'm not real. I am an illusion. Not only me, many people in the Great Bei clan are just illusions. For example, the 100-Flower Emperor, and these are the things I want to confirm on this trip, but they are not everything. I want to find the reason for my tears. I want to find the source of my sadness, find that little fellow. I always feel like I have been waiting for it for a very long time. It's not just for one lifetime but for many lifetimes. I want to know who he is. When you return my left eye to me, I might be able to find the answer from my past memories. Or maybe can't. Unfortunately, the past you want doesn't have the answer you are looking for. Ning Fan sighed. He did not manage to find the person whom Tu Huang had been waiting for and searching for in the past through his left eye. However, for some reason, when he recalled the time when he killed Tu Huang at this very moment, he could not help but recall the scene of the mountain of corpses and the figure of the sword ancestor. The sword ancestor's hand that wanted to touch him but put down in the end was unforgettable. The scene where the sword ancestor had no choice but to disappear without a trace was hard for him to let go of. Little butterfly, stop sleeping. Wake up quickly. Little butterfly, stop sleeping. Stop sleeping. If you continue sleeping, you won't be able to make it in time for the ancient desolate mountain's new moon every 10 years. Only the sword ancestor would have such a gentle call. In the past, I didn't understand why I couldn't find you even after searching for so long. When I truly understood why, I couldn't coexist in the same world as you. I'm afraid you will never be able to find me in the future. You won't be able to find me in any reincarnation. When you find me, you might have already missed me. What did I miss when I didn't understand? The new moon of the ancient desolate mountain will only be full every 10 years. The tide of the Nichen Sea will only rise once every 100 years. The fog of the vast expanse path will only recede once every 1,000 years. The jade peaches of the ancient heavenly court will only bloom once every 10,000 years. The lily of the valley in the heaven desolate ancient realm will only bloom once every 100,000 years. As for me, I'm only allowed to smile once every few million years. I've waited for a long time. I've left a lot for you. I really want to watch the new moon together, even if it's just for 10 years. For some reason, the sword ancestor's figure overlapped with Tu Huang's in Ning Fan's heart. Their appearances were clearly different. But why did he have such a similar feeling? Ning Fan did not understand what that overlap represented. He had countless guesses in his mind, but he could not verify them. He was wondering if he had some kind of huge karma with Tu Huang or the sword ancestor in his previous life. Otherwise, why would these two women always give him a strange feeling that was different from all the women he had met before? It had nothing to do with romance. It had nothing to do with feelings. However, it could make him feel as if his heart was being torn apart. With the guidance of Lu Tua Emperor, he could see the truth of the four supreme beings of the Great Bei clan. However, there were still some doubts that he could not see through. For example, the sword ancestor and Tu Huang. After a very long time, Ning Fan suppressed the various thoughts in his mind and sorted out the many spoils of war that the 100-Flower Emperor obtained. After killing the 100-Flower Emperor, he did not obtain any innate magical treasure. It seemed like her innate magical treasure had been destroyed by Tu Huang. After that, Ning Fan escaped from the profound Yin world. In a flash, he went to an unknown location in the central state. The sky was completely bright now. However, this day was destined to be a day of unrest in the entire Great Bei clan. The Bone Spirit Peak, the Laugh Cry Peak, the Tiandu Peak, and the 100-Flower Peak. In just one night, countless disciples of the immortal emperors were captured. Their whereabouts were unknown, but strangely, their life plates were not broken. The life plates of the Bone Spirit Great Emperor, the Buddha Cry Great Emperor, the Tiandu Emperor, and the 100-Flower Great Emperor were all broken. 4 immortal emperors had fallen in one night. There were rumors that the first 3 immortal peaks were silently destroyed by someone. Moreover, there were not many traces of battle at the scene. The 100-Flower Peak seemed to have caused quite a commotion. However, the memories of the surviving cultivators were all erased, making them unable to remember who the culprit was. However, many experts of the Great Bei clan could guess who the culprit was even if they used their toes to think. There was only one person who could kill 4 of the 5 immortal emperors of the central state in such an unscrupulous manner. That lunatic. That peerless devil. The ghost mask cultivator. The radiant Buddha was finally enraged. In the past, when the ghost mask cultivator attacked the 3 flames, he was not angry. After all, the 3 flames had lost a total of 2 immortal emperors. Even the dead emperor had suffered losses repeatedly. As for the sacred mountain, they only lost a relatively important peak immortal king. In general, he was still gloating over the loss of the three flames. However, it was different now. 4 immortal emperors of the central state had fallen in succession. It was simply a slap to his face. Where was the dignity of the dignified sacred mountain? Forget about the 100-flower peak. It was just an illusion puppet. However, the other 3 were all capable subordinates of the sacred mountain. In an empty hall, the radiant Buddha looked at the information in his hand and said angrily, "If I were not busy refining the thunder whip to strip the sword ancestor's love from Ji Qingling's body, how could I allow such a madman to fool around on the grassland? Amitba, then you should quickly end Ji Qingling's execution and go catch him personally. Ha, how dare he behave so atrociously under the rule of the sacred mountain? He must be tired of living." A gentle and elegant voice slowly spoke from inside the radiant Buddha's body. The aura he emitted was actually at the level of a second-stage pre-saint. He was slightly weaker than the flame ancestor but much stronger than the ghost ox. "Master Pharmacist, do you mean to bring forward the execution? But if so, where will the thunder force come from? Have you forgotten that there's still the thunderous branch on the sacred mountain?" Master Pharmacist, you really have a good plan. It turns out that when you ordered me to secretly push this matter and let the Thunder Force send Lei Tsong to his death, you have already started to scheme against the Thunder Force's immemorial Thunder Cauldron. The immemorial Thunder Cauldron is the first of the 9 great cauldrons of the Southern Medicine Old Man's life. It is refined with the spiritual materials of the 4-sex sea region and contains the thunder of Eastern Mountain. If you use the thunder of Eastern Mountain, you probably don't need to refine the thunder whip and can easily strip the sword ancestor's love, right? It's just a little troublesome. Not just anyone can use the immemorial thunder cauldron. You've forgotten again. Aren't those external cultivators who are attached to the thunder sound lineage very useful? Master, are you talking about those people from the Dark Tribe and the envoys sent by the various powers of the Eastern Sky? If you want them to do something, it's possible, but the price is very expensive. The last time I met those external cultivators, they actually asked me for a sky-high price. Just agree to their conditions. It doesn't matter if the price is expensive. After all, it's the thunder of Eastern Mountain. It's worth the price. Even if what they want is the thunder of Eastern Mountain, we can negotiate and split some of it to fool them. Compared to this price, the sword ancestor's love is more important. That old man, flame ancestor, had imprisoned the sword ancestor's corpse for a lifetime. However, he didn't know that the sword ancestor's essence of the third-step sword Tao was not in those empty bones. The sword ancestor cultivated the emotionless sword. However, the strongest part of the emotionless sword was love. Have you ever heard that the sword ancestor who was a mere immortal emperor had once injured the corner of a 4th-step immortal sovereign's clothes with his love sword? That trace of love is the essence of his sword Tao inheritance. That old man, flame ancestor, is wrong. I am right. Master's eyes are like torches. What you inherited is the great wisdom of the Southern Medicine Saint. How can you be compared to flame ancestor who only inherited brute force? You don't have to flatter me like this. Go and do your business. Understood. I will go to the Thunder Force now and then execute the punishment in advance. One day later, Ning Fan, who was using an illusion technique to conceal his true body, suddenly heard the conversation of the cultivators in a city of the central state when he passed by. Have you heard? The heinous master of the blood martial sect is going to be executed in advance. Everyone is allowed to go to the sacred mountain to watch the ceremony. Of course. I am more well-informed than you. The execution will be held 3 days later. We are not far away from the sacred mountain. If we choose a good spirit beast carriage, we can reach the sacred mountain in less than 3 days to watch the ceremony. Those cultivators who are further away will feel a little regretful. With such a grand occasion, I'm afraid they won't be able to make it to the sacred mountain in time. It can't be helped. Who asked Lord Radiant Buddha to suddenly decide to execute the punishment in advance? However, we haven't gathered enough lightning power to refine the lightning whip of punishment. Why did Lord Radiant Buddha bring forward the execution date? It is said that the Thunder Force helped Lord Radiant Buddha by using the immemorial lightning cauldron. That's why the execution date was brought forward. I heard that the reason why Lord Radiant Buddha brought forward the execution date was to end this matter earlier so that he could focus on hunting down the evil ghost-masked cultivators in the grassland. He killed the 3 flames and 2 emperors first, and then the 4 emperors of the central state. This ghost-masked cultivator is too arrogant. He should be hacked into pieces. I also heard that Ning Fan no longer had the mood to listen to them. His eyes were filled with coldness. Emperor Slayer is actually going to be executed in advance. If there are only 3 days left, I'm afraid I won't have more time to continue improving my strength, Emperor Slayer. Sword Ancestor. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.